Okay.
Okay, that was like the most like that was the most awkward intro I've ever seen. So I'm gonna I'm gonna start us off. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to. I actually I don't want to say welcome back. That's kind of cringe.
Yeah.
Scrap that. Okay,
Okay.
welcome everybody to a different sort of thing. This is I am your host, Ty. No, I'm just kidding. I am Killer is the host for today, and I am joining him. You might recognize me because I have my own channel, but we don't talk about that now. Anyway, in this sort of I don't know video podcast type thing, we will be ranking each Godzilla movie, TV show, series. Um, Currently, this is including the New Empire -1 and the animated trilogy, along with Singular Point. So I am joined today with Killer T, and you can now take the stage.
All right. There will be spoilers for pretty much all of these. So, I guess if you don't want to be spoiled in any of them, then I guess when we get to the movie that you don't want to be spoiled on, just skip over a little bit till we're done with that movie or show or
Yeah,
whatever.
definitely
Okay.
do subscribe to his channel though.
Yeah.
He's
And
gonna make some. He's gonna bring you guys some good content soon enough,
yeah.
and I'm also gonna be trying to get into Godzilla a little bit more. But without further ado, I think
Yeah.
we should start it with the movie that started it
Started it
all,
all.
Godzilla 1954.
1954. All right. Right off the rip, I want to put it in S tier.
Yeah, I it's kind of, at this point it's kind of
It's
you need to put it in S tier.
it's well
So
known that this movie is peak. Um, yeah, there's really not that much to say about it, except it's just really good.
I've recently watched it so I can provide a little bit more context.
All right.
It's just a very going into this movie, I like the first time I watched it, it was about a decade ago. This scared the shit out of me. And Godzilla, you can definitely feel him as a presence the moment he, gets on screen, he does his thing. But one thing in the movie that really stuck out for me that told me that this was not going to be a goofy type of movie was when there's a scene in it where the mom says something along the lines of "Don't worry, kids, we're going to be seeing Daddy soon." And that line stuck out to me because that really just shows you how serious this movie is. And the overall, like, you can feel how much of a presence Godzilla is when he's just destroying the city, when he emerges from the water. They're all fine, and that music as well. It's not the classic Godzilla theme, but it sounds more. It's like dun dun dun, like kind of that. I
It's
don't
like
know if Killer knows what I'm talking about.
creepy. It's like creepy music, kind of
It's just
unsettling.
the I don't want to say ambience. The what's the word? The overall tone is just so depressing. And at the end, I don't want to I don't know how to word this, but basically, even though when Godzilla is killed, it's not really a happy ending because Godzilla should have never became a thing to begin with. So they look at him as a victim as well, but like not necessarily a victim that it's more of like a tragic end, if that's what you want to call it. Godzilla was never supposed to be a thing to begin with, but because of that, his life is now taken. So you know that's
Yeah, great movie.
that
Yeah,
the movie is just overall it's basically the granddaddy of all monster movies,
yeah.
along with the King
It's
Kong.
yeah. It started the kaiju genre in full swing. It like King Kong walked, but like this movie like ran with it. Um, it's super depressing with like a really great bittersweet ending. Um,
The cast as well does a phenomenal job as well. Like you can feel the emotions in everybody, from Serizawa to all of the characters. Like, I forget their names, but overall, everybody understood the assignment very well. And this movie just gives me chills every time I watch it. And it's not necessarily, like I said, it's a bitter, like Killer said, it's a bittersweet ending where Godzilla should have never became a thing to begin with, but now because of that, his life is now taken. So yeah, it's S tier for me. I'm easily putting
yeah,
it in S
yeah.
tier.
It's a great movie. it's what started it all, you know. It's got the profound nuclear metaphor, like, you know, Japan had just been nuked 9 years prior to this, so it was still fresh on
Right.
their minds when they made this movie, and it shows with like the nuclear imagery and all that. Yeah,
And the way Godzilla came to be as well, like behind the scenes, a lot of things, you know,
so much interesting stuff
just
happened
I
to
know. And if you guys want
yeah.
to, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to shout out any channels, but I'd highly recommend checking out Wikizilla's video on the origins of how they made Gojira 1954.
Oh yeah, I have
But
I have one too. There's a channel called Big Action Bill that has like a series where he goes over like the history of each Godzilla movie and like how they were made, and it goes into detail and very well done. So yeah,
we're heading to 1955 now.
yeah, Godzilla Raids Again.
Okay.
Um, this is the Rush sequel that was made in 5 months and released five
Godzilla's
months.
first fight as well.
Yeah. Um, a lot of people would throw it in one of these bottom three tiers. I don't think it's that bad. I'd put it here.
I'd put it around B tier, like but like very low end of B tier
Yeah.
because it is Godzilla's first fight, but a lot of scenes there were did
Yeah.
feel rushed, and I feel like it could have been a very good sequel had they had a little bit more time. But I think they were just taken aback by the success of 54 that they were just like, okay, quick, throw this movie together, let's get started.
Yeah. The and like the funny part is that they meant for the fights to like the for the fight to not be like super like fast and all that. It was supposed to be like slower, but when they were shooting the fight, they accidentally shot it like extra fast and they didn't have the time or money to go back and reshoot it and make it like more normal. So
A
like
plus, sorry, you can go.
the normally the monsters are like slower and more, big looking, but then when you get to the fights, it's all like sped up and weird.
Right. A plus I will give this movie though is I love how animalistic the fights do look. Like it's just it's no it's until like the final part, but like it's just Godzilla and Anguirus just going at each other,
Yeah.
and it reminds me of like two bears fighting. You just
Yeah.
see the action right there. They're throwing their punches. They're on the ground. They're clawing. They're biting. It's very animalistic, and that's a point I will give it. So for that, I'm putting in low B. As the tier list forms, we're gonna start to cook a little bit with the
Yeah.
tier list.
My
But any other thoughts you'd like to give,
yeah,
or
my
were you gonna rank this?
my main problem with this movie is that like I have a couple problems with it. Like, first of all, I don't like Godzilla's design in this movie. It looks really
Yeah, it is
weird. It is
shit.
so weird.
It is so bad.
Yeah. And then another problem is that even though I think everything leading up to the fight in Osaka between Godzilla and Anguirus is pretty interesting, I think after that and after Anguirus dies, the movie kind of falls off hard and the rest of the movie is just kind of boring and uninteresting. And the
I kind
characters
of
aren't memorable at all.
Yeah, I don't really remember this movie too much, but didn't they kind of like do a little bit of a recycle on 54's ending?
I think they like
Oh no,
the
no, no, no. They
they
bury him in
and
ice, and
ice,
then
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
yeah,
happens
with
in
the
King
planes and
Kong versus
stuff and
Godzilla.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And speaking of King Kong versus
Yeah.
Godzilla,
Well, we
that's our
gotta we
next
gotta
movie.
we gotta finalize rates again though. Are we going B or C? I have
Uh,
him I have
I'm
him in low C.
I'm going in low. Actually, I might go high C with this one.
Yeah, let's go
I
C.
feel like low B is a bit too generous given what we got, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna go with mid to high C.
Yeah.
Um,
I have it low C. It's like the most average Godzilla movie. It's
it
completely
has good
overlooked.
aspects of it, but it's
Yeah.
not really that good. Um,
King Kong
King
versus
Kong versus
Godzilla.
Godzilla, the
This one
most
is
infamous
yeah.
movie of the franchise, one of the most infamous movies.
Uh,
Um,
it's pretty good though, not gonna
I
lie.
actually had a lot of fun rewatching this movie. I think we talked about it a little bit the other day. A lot of the characters bring this sort of charm that we don't really see
Yeah.
much from the Godzilla, but a lot of them start doing like this goofy, like the tribe does this funny dance for Kong, and the characters that are brought there think that they're gonna kill him, and it just goes into this whole thing, and it's just fun to watch.
Yeah.
Godzilla's design, it's all right, but I've kind of grown to like it a little bit more. It just looks so dirty, but it looks good, funny at the same time. A plus for this movie, though, is I do love the practical effects that they use. This is, of course, the first movie of the Showa era to have color. And when Godzilla is destroying the buildings, I do like that sequence a lot. You know, the fire, the explosions, everything. But we're going to talk about the fight in a minute. Killer, what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, as you said, the characters are fun. There's like no nuance. It's over the top, but it's fun. The
It doesn't take
fights,
itself seriously.
yeah, yeah. The fights are fun. The effects are all good, with the one exception being that like one shot where they decide to use stop motion and it looks very out of place.
Are you talking about the squid one where he jumps on Kong?
No, it's the one where like Godzilla like kicks Kong, but like,
Oh,
yeah,
that
yeah,
dude, I laughed so much in this movie.
yeah. Yeah, this movie is really funny though. This is like basically one of the few Godzilla movies that you could actually call a
Oh my god.
comedy. It is really funny.
Let's let's address the elephant in the room here. Kong's design in
It's
this,
so
what were they
bad.
thinking with it? Straight up looks like roadkill, and then you just threw that shit in the oven, and then you just got some sort of mutation.
Yeah,
That shit looks horrendous, my guy. You can't like he it's so bad he can't even close his fist to beat his chest. He's just kind of
yeah.
slapping his nipple.
I don't even like Godzilla's design in this movie, but it looks so much better than Kong's
It's
design. It's not even close. And I
this
still
movie
don't
has
like
no
the
right to
Godzilla
be
design.
this movie has no right to be this funny, but like the first fight they have, I don't know if you saw, but like when Godzilla's on that hill, Kong is, you know, they're both swinging their arms around doing their
Yeah,
thing,
doing the little
and
intimidation
Godzilla
dance.
destroys the helicopter that somehow happened to fly in his path. Kong's reaction is just so
Yeah,
fucking
yeah, he's
funny.
just like, wait,
He's
he
just
can
like
do that. He can
he's
do
like,
that.
oh shit, that's not good.
Yeah.
I wonder how people in the '60s reacted. This, see, people in the '60s, this movie was Godzilla versus Kong for us, but to them, this is what we felt like watching Godzilla versus Kong in 2021.
Yeah. Literally everyone and their mother in Japan saw this movie. This movie made so much money when it came out.
I saw this movie so many times growing up, and like, I think it played on TV a few times, and I was just like, what? But that first fight, it was, I mean, they just kind of swing their arms around a little bit. Godzilla, I don't know what he does, but he just kind of like flaps his arms around, you know, uses the
Yeah.
atomic breath a little bit. The last battle, though, the final fight, it's a good fight. I do
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
great fight.
Much better of a fight. And at first, Kong kind of like bitches out of the fight, but then Godzilla's over here looking around like all kind of cartoon style. Like, I hear him, I don't see him. Until Kong just like takes his tail and just throws him around a
Oh
little bit.
yeah, yeah,
It's just so funny.
yeah, yeah. This movie's just a good time and not much more than that. I
And then when Kong goes to hit Godzilla, he falls down and then knocks himself out. I'm like,
oh yeah,
I just keep on laughing.
Yeah, this
It's like,
movie is really
how do you
funny.
knock yourself out?
Yeah, I think this movie, I personally put it in like mid B tier.
I'm putting it in B tier. It's just so it has no right to be this funny, and it's
Yeah,
ironically a comedy Godzilla movie.
yeah.
So I feel like some of the next show entries, since we are on time crunch a little bit, we can just kind of go over
Yeah, yeah.
quickly.
Mothra versus
'Cause
Godzilla.
so I think this movie also had some sort of message, whereas King Kong versus Godzilla was kind of addressing greed. If I remember correctly, this movie was kind of going in that same vein. This movie does take Godzilla a lot more seriously, from what I remember.
Yeah, yeah, this one's definitely more serious than the other one. Except for the times where
I
he like trips and falls into a castle and gets angry about it, but
oh my god. But I definitely do like this movie as a Showa movie. I quite like it. The message is there. Mothra, I think Mothra was just like this was Mothra's prime as well, right? She had just gotten like her movie.
yeah, she got a movie just
Um
a few years before, and this is the crossover
and
with
then
Godzilla.
yeah, Godzilla was kind of this was kind of like the cinematic universe before the whole cinematic universe.
Yeah,
Godzilla just fought King Kong, and now he's just fighting like King Kong again was very popular around that time,
and yeah,
but now he's fighting Mothra. So it's two back-to-back movies that he's fighting crossover characters with, and I think that's where it really kickstarted
Yeah.
the show era. Killer, you want to give any more thoughts?
Yeah, this movie is just all around really solid. I think this is my second favorite Showa era movie, behind, basically my favorite behind the original 1954 one. It's solid. I like it. There's good characters. The action's all pretty nice. It's just a well done movie. I say low A tier.
I really do want to put it in low A, but I don't know. There's just the goofiness behind King Kong versus Godzilla that I
Yeah,
it just can't
it's
be. It's just too
it's in
it's too
between these two.
funny.
It's in between like high B and low A.
So Invasion of Astro Monster next, is it?
Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster's next.
Okay.
Um, this
Oh
one
boy.
is also pretty good. Three solid Showa movies in a row. This one's Ghidorah, right? Hold on.
Yeah, this is Ghidorah.
Yeah. Yeah, Astro Monster's here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, right off the bit, Rip, I want to put it like high B tier, like just above King Kong and below
Yeah,
Godzilla.
I'm putting it I'm putting it behind the Mothra versus Godzilla because I do like the serious tone that MVG went with.
Yeah.
But this movie as well, I had tons of fun with, and I'm gonna be putting it in B tier just behind King
Yeah.
Kong and Mothra.
Yeah, and
Solid.
this is another like big crossover thing where because like this brought in Rodan who had his own movie in
Oh yeah, Rodan. I
1956.
forgot.
Yeah.
Rodan had just gotten his movie.
Yeah, I got his movie right after Godzilla Raids Again came out, and and then of course this movie introduced the most iconic Godzilla villain, and Ghidorah. Ghidorah's Ghidorah. He's awesome. Everyone loves him.
For people who know Fury, they're just shivering in their timbers right now,
Yeah.
wait his arrival. But for the people who don't know, good. Okay, so I'm putting this in B tier behind MVG and King Kong.
Yeah. Yeah. I put it. Yeah, I put it right above King Kong vs. Godzilla in B tier, and
Okay.
yeah, basically the same spot. Um,
I forget all these Showa era movies. They have it's just I think this is the longest era, if I'm
it
not
is.
mistaken.
There are 15 Showa movies.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
there's a
Okay.
lot of these. Invasion of Astro Monster. This one I think is a
It's
little bit of a step down compared to the last
it's
few.
it's mid.
Yeah, it's
I
mid.
mean already I'm gonna put it at C tier
Yeah,
just over
I'm gonna put it above Raids
Raids.
Again though. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm putting it above Raids again.
yeah,
It's just there's just something missing about that movie that I it's been a while, okay? It's been a good 5, 6 years since I've watched a lot of these Showa era movies.
yeah.
Um, but I remember I think didn't they bring the Zillions in last movie or
No,
was it like
this is the first time the Zillions were added.
okay?
They basically took control of Ghidorah after Ghidorah had been forced from the Earth in the last one, and
Mm,
and there was like a bunch of this stuff where they like are like trying to be like pretending to be nice to the humans, and they like ask to
okay.
borrow Godzilla and Rodan to deal with Ghidorah, but then it turns out they actually have control of Ghidorah, so they unleash all three monsters on Earth. A whole bunch of stuff happens. I think the human stuff in this movie is actually not bad. It's just that there is not much monster action because this was when they started cutting the budgets to these movies.
Hmm.
And Godzilla has less screen time in this than he does in any other Godzilla movie. Like he's only in it for like a little more than 5 minutes, I think.
Oh wow.
He's not in this movie very much. Um,
Might as well just call it. I mean, I Invasion of Astro Monster. I think that me personally, the first time I saw this movie, I thought this was just a standalone movie with Godzilla as a side character,
yeah,
but I think they
makes
just threw
sense.
him in. Um,
Yeah,
okay. So do you want to just go over the next two movies at the same time because these are pretty forgettable movies of the
yeah.
show era?
Yeah, let's quickly run through them. Ebirah Horror of the Deep, I think, is like mid to high D tier.
Oh, you are so generous, my friend.
I don't hate it. I think there are like some parts of this that I like. I like the parts with like where they're on a boat and trying to like people are on a boat trying to escape the island, and Ebirah like takes down the boats. I think those parts are like shot really well, and it just looks nice. But then it's so inconsistent with its cinematography. You'll get that. Like scenes that are shot well like that, and then you'll get the giant condor fight where you can't tell what's happening because the camera is
I
so up in the
completely forgot
monsters'
about the
faces.
giant condor.
Yeah. I This movie is like just really stupid and kind of fun in some parts, but
It's a dumb fun.
yeah, I think it's D tier. I don't think it's that bad. There are worse Showa movies.
Oh boy, the next
The
movie I'm
next one
putting this.
though, Son of Godzilla, is
I'm
E tier in
I'm
my opinion.
I'm putting this in F, A,
Oh,
B, C, D. I don't even have an E tier. That's how bad this
oh
movie
yeah.
is.
I have a few. I only have one F tier Godzilla movie. We'll get there in a little bit, but E
Oh
tier I
boy.
think is fair for Son of Godzilla because honestly, this movie is really bad except for the ending. I think the ending is actually pretty good. With It's kind of like heartwarming and
It,
wholesome.
yeah,
It's
I
it's
like that
it's
ending.
two hideous looking monsters hugging each other as they're being covered in snow.
This this Godzilla design is
This
the
is the worst
equivalent of the
Godzilla design. It is
this
so
Godzilla design
bad.
is the equivalent of the 62 Kong design. It's just like I these two are a match made in heaven. You should
Yeah.
have just had this Godzilla fight that Kong.
Yeah.
And then that movie would have been even better. That movie would have probably been A tier if these two
It would have
ugly
been
ass
so
monsters fought
funny.
each other.
Why is his neck so long in this movie?
Why do his eyes pop out? Like my
What
guy.
I know they did that so that he could look more like Manila, but Manila is hideous.
Who cares? I mean, I kind of wish Manila died in that movie. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey, at least we only get to see him. At least we only have to see him a couple more times in the Showa era, and then we
He's
see him
so
once
hideous,
later.
dude.
But yeah,
Heisei did it way better.
yeah, Heisei did Godzilla's kids so much better. But yeah,
He just
Kamanga
looks
and
like
Kamacuras,
Roadkill.
yeah, Kamanga and Kamacuras are there. They don't really mean much. They're just there. Kamanga does have some like fun stuff, but yeah,
I do like the names though. Kamakura is kind of like to me when I was little, I was like, oh, that's a badass name,
yeah.
Kamakuras or whatever it is. What's the next movie? This one is
Destroy All Monsters.
Gigan's first appearance.
No, no, we're still a little ways from that. Destroy All
Oh
Monsters
my
is
bad.
next. Yeah. So this is the one that when it was being made was originally supposed to be the final Godzilla movie. Of course, it didn't end up that way, but that's what it was at the time. They upped the budget a bit, and they just brought back a whole bunch of monsters. Like most of the
This was
monsters they've been
basically the
introducing.
Infinity War.
Yeah, and so I think this is like low B tier. Like there's basically like one monster fight and it's at the end and it's awesome, but then everything else in the movie is not that good. Like the individual monsters don't have that much screen time, and that's all saved for the end, the final fight. But again, the final fight is amazing. It's great. It's just everyone jumping Ghidorah at once.
Dude, we need to get that, but like in the MonsterVerse
Yeah,
where
yeah, just
Destroy is there, and then we get.
everyone versus Destroyer. That'd be really cool.
Oh my god, that
There's
is the final. You get Kong, Mothra, Godzilla, Gigan.
yeah,
Oh my, so good.
and but there's this like this weird aspect of Destroy All Monsters where there's this like rocket prop that Toho was apparently really proud of because they kept showing it in the movie over and over again. I
I
like
remember that.
I feel like the rocket prop has more screen time than Godzilla in this movie.
The rocket pop itself has more screen time than Godzilla in a lot of these Showa era movies.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of noticeable that they have a bigger budget for this one though, because the action where it is spectacular, and they bring in so many monsters from past movies. Varen comes back from his own movie for like 5 seconds. Baragon's in it a little bit from Frankenstein Conquers the World. There's
Gorosaurus.
yeah, Gorosaurus from King Kong Escapes. There's Manda from Atragon.
It's
They
just so many
yeah,
monsters come into this movie, and
of
it was like
course
the
Rod
Infinity War.
yeah, and of course Rodan, Mothra, and Ghidorah are back from their previous things.
It's just such a like I enjoyed the movie, so for that I'm gonna put it in the B tier above
Yeah.
Ghidorah the three-headed monster.
Yeah, I put it
Um,
in B tier below King Kong versus Godzilla.
all right, next movie I'm not even gonna talk about it. Instant F tier.
All Monsters
Fuck
Attack,
this movie.
instant F tier. This is the worst Godzilla movie. One of my least
F
favorite
tier
movies ever. It
for
is so awful. Most annoying kid character. Like not much action, and when there is action, it's really stupid.
F tier for
It's
fuck this
so
movie.
bad. Worst. Gabber is one of the ugliest monsters ever.
I wish he died. I wish they just gave him a
Yeah.
slow pain. They should have just given him the
Hey,
kiss of
at
death.
least they gave him like a fire redesign in Singular Point.
I guess, but like
But yeah,
F tier just stands
yeah.
for fuck
This
this
movie
movie.
sucks. This is the only Godzilla movie I have in F tier.
I just have the tier list. I just have the tier spot just saying fuck this movie.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay.
Godzilla versus Hedorah.
Yeah.
This movie kind of scared me when I first watched it as a kid. I don't know. It just this okay. I kind of want to like take the spotlight here with a little bit with this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This movie is, I guess you could say, the most realistic out of all the Showa era movies. Here's why: because pollution is still a huge thing nowadays in today's society.
Yeah.
Everyone's just throwing their shit around, and it's like they do talk about it. I mean, when people say Godzilla movies in general don't really have a message, that's cap because this movie clearly talks about the pollution, and Hedorah is literally a pollution monster. And this is, I think, Godzilla's hardest fight up until this point, if I'm not mistaken. If not his
Yeah,
hardest fight in
I
the
think I
Showa era.
agree with that.
I think the only other kaiju to give him this hard of a beating was Mecha Godzilla, but Hedorah just I don't know. I always felt like Godzilla had the chance of killing Mecha Godzilla without help, but with Hedorah, if he didn't get help, I'm pretty sure he would have died. Because at the end of the movie, he comes out without an eye and his hand is just completely
Yeah.
like gone, and that's brutal as shit. That's why I'm over here like Hedorah's kind of OP.
Yeah,
Because didn't they have to dry him out with electricity?
I don't remember specifically because this is one I haven't watched in a little while, but yeah, the Hedorah was like brutalized Godzilla so much, and then Godzilla brutalized him in return by ripping his eyes out.
But even then, he lost an arm from it. So it's
Yeah,
just like this is definitely the hardest fight he's had at
yeah.
this point.
But this movie is so weird. Like one scene you'll see Hedorah flying over a group of like innocent people and then they suffocate to death. The next scene you'll see someone so high at a party that like to him everyone else around him has fish heads. And then the next scene you'll see Godzilla flying. It's so weird.
Oh my god, that is the most that
This
is the most iconic moment ever, I
yeah.
think. Godzilla I think they did that a little bit in the New Empire, but
Yeah, they
that was
like
the
kind of
biggest
paid
missed
homage to a
opportunity.
little bit. Yeah. Yeah, this movie is so wild. The messaging isn't exactly subtle. Like they literally is literally just a song in it called Save the Earth.
It's kind of depressing though. Like I don't know. There's just something so traumatizing about seeing those people just all fucking die from Fedora that really
Yeah.
messed me up when I first watched it.
Yeah.
For that, I'm actually gonna put it in the second part of B tier, just behind
Yeah.
King Kong versus Godzilla.
I kind of disagree with the placement though. I don't like this movie very much. The characters, I think some of the characters are kind of annoying personally.
I
Um
agree.
and also, I think the lighting is weird. It's kind of hard to see in some scenes. I don't think the music is good. Like in this and Godzilla versus Megalon, they both had the same composer. When Godzilla like walks on screen, there's just this ridiculous like flare of just random instruments, and it sounds so horrible. I personally would
Yeah.
put this in D tier, behind Ebura.
Mm. The only reason, actually, I might just bump it down to C tier, just now that you mentioned that. I had this movie high up just because of the brutality, but I don't really think brutality can make up for the product. Like
Yeah,
I
there's
don't know.
this movie
I'll
serves
put
its
this high
purpose, and I'm
C.
glad it exists, but it is so weird.
If they bring back Hedorah for a MonsterVerse movie, I think this is going to be Godzilla, one of Godzilla's hardest fights.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Actually, no. To be fair, he's evolved. Like fearsome Godzilla has evolved now,
Right,
so
right. But what if fearsome hetero evolves?
fearsome Hedorah has evolved into Biolante.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I know Adam Wingard has said that he wants to use hetero, so yeah.
Oh, maybe that's actually we're gonna talk about that once we get to the MonsterVerse. Um, this movie, I think every kid and their grandmothers watched this movie growing up on VHS. I had all my friends wear out every single VHS tape with this movie. Isn't this Godzilla versus Megalon?
No, Godzilla versus Gigan is next.
Oh, whoops! I already ranked Godzilla versus Guy again.
Oh.
Um,
Yeah, Godzilla versus Gigan, it's like just kind of mid in my opinion. I think the
yeah,
fights are like kind of decent, but I think they're actually too long, which is a weird take, I know, but it's kind of one note, the fights, I think.
it kind of drags out a little bit.
And the human stuff is like not bad, but it's kind of whatever. This movie is just kind of and this is where like they started using Uh, outside of All Monsters Attack, there hadn't really been that much stock footage used at this point, but this
Oh
is
my
when they
god.
really started using stock footage.
Oh my. Isn't this the movie where his fucking suit rips and
Oh
they
yeah,
start talking?
and this they've been using the same suit this same suit all the way back since Destroy All Monsters. So yeah,
Oh
this
my.
suit was not holding up very well anymore. I think this movie is top of D tier, above
Yeah,
everything.
I put it top of D tier as well. I
Yeah,
mean, I think this is the movie where they also talked, and I just could
it
never
was
get over
so
that.
weird. Yeah,
Like,
um,
if I like the blood in this movie, Godzilla's first time
yeah,
bleeding,
yeah, he,
again, fucking brutalizes him,
yeah.
and just,
Also,
but the tone,
yeah, Ghidorah feels like such a third wheel. Like, does he even do anything in this movie? I don't even remember. Like,
I honestly have no honest answer for that because he just kind of felt like a side character here
yeah,
for Guy.
Ghidorah was not in the movie much. They just I feel like they just needed him because they think Godzilla and Anguirus together would have been a bit too much for Gigan to handle, so they had to bring in Ghidorah. But honestly, Ghidorah was like weaker than Gigan in this movie, which just feels weird.
Yeah, if you have Ghidorah, he has to be the biggest villain.
Anyway,
Anyway, I put this in high D tier. It's the highest
yeah,
of D.
I agree. Uh, Godzilla versus Megalon.
Oh
Um,
boy, this. Whenever I hear people talk about the Showa era, it's this movie or, besides 54, it's this movie or Godzilla, or sorry, Terror of Mechagodzilla that is talked about the most. And all of my friends wore out their VHS tapes watching this movie. It's killer. Give your thoughts on it.
Um, personally, I don't like this movie. I think it's like the budget is noticeably tiny. I think this has the same music problem with Hetera, where like the music just I don't like it. This movie is too kiddie for me. Um, there are like some fun parts. Of course, the sliding drop kick is hilarious. Um, the
Your D.
oh wait. Oh yeah, sliding drop kick. Yeah, yeah. Godzilla handshakes Jet Jaguar in it.
Oh my god. I will
It's
say though that the design is much better.
yeah. I think Godzilla's design. Personally, I think his eyes are too large in this movie, but
He
that
looks
does get
just too friendly.
yeah. It gets improved in the next two movies where they like it's like they
I
keep the same general design but make his eyes smaller.
wasn't this the time where I forgot what other Jap like series was out, but it's not, it wasn't Power Rangers. It was like some sort of
Ultraman,
like, yeah,
Ultraman.
Ultraman.
Yeah,
It
Jet
was around this
Jaguar was
time where
inspired by
Ultraman was
that.
very popular, so they had to just compete with their little kid
Jet
audiences.
Jaguar, yeah. But yeah, Gigan's in it a little bit. Megalon is of course in it, and Megalon is basically just like a kind of like a angry toddler god. Like he throws temper tantrums all the time.
Oh my
Um,
god.
there's a bunch of stock footage in it again, where like where you know Megalon has like a yellow like beam coming from his little star horn thing, so they use stock footage of Ghidorah's beam for it.
Every time you say stock footage, I just get PTSD
Yeah,
from
of Gamma Super
Gamma.
Monster. Oh, oh, wow. Yeah. I
I put
personally
this
would
movie in high D.
I put it in E tier. Obviously,
Oh
of
wow.
course, way above All Monsters Attack, but I personally actually put it below Son of Godzilla because Son of Godzilla at least
No,
has that really nice ending.
yeah, I guess.
Where did you put
Okay,
it?
now we get into the final two Showa era
Yeah.
movies.
Wait. Where'd you put Godzilla versus Megalon?
I put it in high D, just above Godzilla versus Ebera,
All right.
but
Yeah.
also I have it behind Son of
Right.
Godzilla because that ending does kind of salvage the film.
Yeah. Okay. Next is Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, and this is finally when the Showa era returns to form and delivers a banger, because this movie is pretty good.
Wasn't it the Terror of Mechagodzilla?
This and Terror of Mechagodzilla, we could honestly talk about them together.
Yeah,
Although
I'd say we
actually,
could talk.
or maybe not, because they actually have very different tones. Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla is still kind of goofy. Terror of Mechagodzilla takes itself a lot more seriously. So Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. This is the 20th anniversary movie. Um, Toho upped the budget a little bit for it, so it was able to have more action in it. Of course, introduces an iconic Godzilla opponent in Mechagodzilla. Um, Overall, this movie's just a good, fun time. I like it. I would put it in B tier, above King Kong versus Godzilla, below Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster.
I agree. I think this was the first time Godzilla lost a battle, right?
I maybe, yeah. He
Because
he
I
got
remember
beat up hard.
I remember he took a fucking beating from like Mecha Godzilla showed up. He just started firing at him, and Godzilla was like on the floor, and he was just like every missile in him was starting to pop, and with those pops, blood just started gushing.
Yeah,
And I'm just like,
he got
shit. And
destroyed.
then when that scene where he goes into the water, it's it just seems all clear until the water just starts filling with blood. That's what really cemented it as like, oh shit, did he just lose?
Yeah, and then and then there's like so much build up to King Caesar in this movie, and then he ends up being kind of useless.
He kind of just gets his ass. I think it's tradition to have Mecha Godzilla beat Godzilla in every sort of iteration because
Yeah.
I don't really. Isn't Mecha Godzilla the only opponent that hasn't ever really lost against Godzilla? If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like Godzilla is either against him, either like gotten a power up or had help from another monster.
Because every single time I've seen him go up against Mecha Godzilla,
He just
he's
gets
always got his ass
destroyed.
kicked.
Yeah,
Like it's and we're gonna talk about it once we get to GVK because I think that's the movie where he just takes the biggest humiliation ever
yeah,
from Mecha G.
yeah. Yeah, this movie's pretty good. Terror of Mechagodzilla, I think is also pretty good. This one's much darker. I think this is like maybe the darkest Showa movie outside of 1954 and Godzilla Rights Again. Um, yeah, this movie definitely takes itself more seriously. The budget was kind of lowered a little bit. Um, uh, so some of the effects don't hold up. Like this movie has some like really inconsistent like effects quality because you'll at sometimes you'll get the shot of Titanosaurus rising out of the water with the sun above him and it looks great. But then you'll get the shot of Titanosaurus jumping back into the water and like the shot composition is so weird.
Yeah, it's kind of goofy.
But
I'm
I I
putting
I think the human stuff in this movie is actually really solid.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I think I put it in B tier, above Destroy All Monsters, below King Kong versus Godzilla.
yeah. I put um is Terror of Mecha Godzilla the first Mecha Godzilla movie or is that
That's
Godzilla
the
versus
second
Mecha?
one. It's the second
Okay,
one.
so the first one
Was
is
Godzilla
Godzilla
versus
versus
Mech.
Mechagodzilla.
Yeah,
I put that above King Kong versus Godzilla, and then Terror is behind King Kong
yeah,
versus
that
Godzilla.
exact same ranking as me. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
The style starts the
Now this
Heisei
is where he
era.
took his 9 year hiatus into his Toho pretty much just rebooted the character,
Yeah.
and I'd say they did a decent job with the reboot.
I think Return of
Because
Godzilla is pretty good. I don't think it's great, but it is good in my opinion.
I feel like people glazed this movie a little bit too much than
Yeah.
it deserves, but
It is
I can see
good.
why. It's not terrible, but there's just some
There's
scenes in the movie
yeah.
that doesn't do it for me.
I think that
Godzilla's atomic breath isn't really too good looking. I mean, it just kind of looks flat.
I think it's like weird that like it kind of curves a little bit. I think like the general like aesthetic of the atomic breath looks pretty good. It's just that it curves, which is weird.
Right.
This movie is of course way darker than most of the Showa movies. It goes back to the dark and like and serious roots of the original movie. I think it does a decent job, except basically they used an animatronic for the first time in this franchise, like a 16-foot tall Godzilla animatronic they used for some scenes. The problem is that basically they were gonna make it to where the eyes could be moved by remote control, but that malfunctioned, so the animatronic's eyes just looked in different directions and they couldn't fix it. So it looked so goofy when they showed the
Yeah,
face of
you
the
can kind of
animatronic.
notice it.
Yeah, personally,
I do like. You can.
uh,
Sorry.
I actually let go ahead and we'll rank it after.
I do like the ending of this movie. I think Godzilla, the Heisei era Godzilla. I d- okay, how do I explain this? Because I feel like I should kind of explain this once we get to the proper Heisei era. But this Godzilla isn't really that smart. Whereas the Showa era, he was very intelligent. He used his cunning a lot in battle.
Yeah, this
He
one was just
was
more base
agile.
jam.
This one is just more animalistic and kind of just relies off instincts than anything. Like he
Yeah,
gets tricked by bird calls, I think. Um,
And fights, he just uses his beam a lot.
right. But he is intimidating. I do love his roar. The roar is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I
The
think
deep
the
gut
roar is
roll,
better than the Showa roars.
yeah, the deep gut roll, roar that
Rumbling
just
noise,
goes
yeah.
on. I love it. So I'm gonna, for now, I'm putting it in the A tier. But if I had to actually rank it, I would put it in the highest of B.
Yeah, I'm putting it at the highest of B. Above Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, but below Mothra versus Godzilla, which I still have at the bottom of A.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm putting it for now. I'm putting it in the highest of B tier, but that may change once we get later on.
Yeah.
Godzilla versus Biolante.
Now this
I
is where
actually
things start getting really good, in my opinion.
I love this movie.
This movie is solid. I don't think it's
I'll
fantastic, but it is really solid.
Biolante is a very good character. She's terrifying. Like at first, she doesn't seem that intimidating, but like her design later on is very
Awesome.
good.
And the practical effect with the suit, you know that scene where Biolante just starts running? It took
Oh my god, that
30, it
terrified me
took
as a
like
kid.
30 people to operate that. This is probably the most effective like piece of like suitmation ever.
That terrified me. Just seeing her charging at Godzilla, this
Yeah,
huge
and the
wall.
whole screen just starts shaking.
I'm just like, no, 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 stop, stop, dear God,
Yeah,
please. Like it's
yeah.
just
Like no, 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 no. Wait, wait, wait.
yeah, and then Godzilla gets impaled as well. And this is actually the first time I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that he uses the nuclear pulse,
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. But yeah,
which would be a iconic weapon that he uses later on in the series.
yeah. Overall, I think this movie is really solid. I would put it in like mid A tier.
Yeah, I'm putting it in A tier as well. I think this is a very good first showing
Yeah,
of Godzilla's, first tough villain
yeah,
in
and
like what, 10 years?
yeah, and also the human side is actually pretty solid in this one too, with
I do
the
like
like
it. One
scientist that lost his daughter.
one flaw though is I don't really like that daughter scene where it's her DNA that gets put into Biolante. I don't
Yeah,
really like that. I'm not really too fond of it. Biolante herself, I think, is a very good like
yeah,
character.
I think
It's a
she's a great
tragic one.
design.
Um, but overall, I think this movie does deserve the A tier. Do you have any other like final wording you'd like to
I
give this movie?
I don't think so. It's just really good. Yeah. Anyways, next is Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. Um,
Okay.
I
Oof.
I like this one quite a bit personally.
Okay. I know a lot of people don't really like. I think a lot of people have this as like one of the lowest Heisei films, but I
Yeah,
actually quite enjoy it.
me too. I
Um, this
do.
is this is the movie where Godzilla finally becomes 100 meters tall, and like a common criticism I hear is the time travel plot, which I completely understand. But there's like this movie just does it's just so fun. It's an action movie, but it
It's an
has like the
action
story as well.
time travel kind of yeah. It's really cool. I think this is a improved Ghidorah design over the Showa version. I like his
I
design.
love his roars here.
Yeah, and it's just really fun. I personally, this is one of the few like ties I have in the list. I think this is exactly tied with Godzilla versus Biollante for me, and
I think
middle
this
of A
is
tier.
Godzilla's also first time fighting. I think this is his first and only time soloing Ghidorah, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Because I like in King of the Monsters, he had help from Mothra people.
Yeah, and Final
Um,
Wars, he had that power up from the humans, and everywhere else
and
he's had. I
yeah,
think
this is actually his only time where
I
he
think the only
soloed
other
Ghidorah.
exception is GMK, but that's like weird. So
I mean, to be fair, that was a juvenile version. So,
yeah, yeah,
but this movie, it actually showed like he almost dies in here as well. But again, he whips out the nuclear pulse, and then he goes spiral beam on Ghidorah.
yeah,
Um, I think this Ghidorah is what was like 150 meters tall.
yeah, yeah. This Ghidorah was massive. Of course, there's Mecha King Ghidorah as well, which is pretty cool.
To think that this Ghidorah in the Heisei area was almost as big as the MonsterVerse Ghidorah is
Yeah,
just mind blowing.
yeah. So yeah,
I
I
think
think
up
this
until
is
this
A
point,
tier. Yeah.
this was still the biggest villain in the Godzilla franchise until
Until
King of the
yeah,
Monsters.
until King of, unless you want to count the anime trilogy Ghidorah, but again, that was kind of weird.
Yeah. So, where do you put this film?
I have this like mid A tier. I'm trying to decide whether I want to put it above or below Godzilla versus Biollante.
I What I do like is that they show Godzilla's origin in this movie with the Godzilla source, but I also do love the scene where I forget his name, but he looks at the window through got like
Yeah,
to
yeah,
Godzilla.
that like general guy who's saved by Godzillasaurus and now is like has like a respect for Godzilla, but then Godzilla just murders him.
It's like it's a bittersweet moment because you're like,
Yeah,
wow, he fucking died. But Godzilla in this movie, this is where he finally gets into like that anti-hero stuff where he's not really the good guy, but he's doing good things. So
yeah. I think I'm gonna put it right below Godzilla versus Biollante, but above Mothra versus Godzilla.
me personally, I'm putting in the A tier as well, but
Yeah,
I'm putting it above Biollante.
yeah. This movie's pretty good.
Okay,
Next
Mothra
is
versus Godzilla.
Godzilla versus Mothra, the other one.
I
Um,
really enjoy this movie.
I'm not as big a fan of this one. I think it's like okay, but I do think it's a bit of a step down from the past few Heisei movies.
I just want to say the Shobijin for Mothra, they sing very nicely in this movie.
Yeah,
The scene where she teams up with Batra, I do like that.
yeah,
Um, it's very nice, and I do like the
yeah,
action. I think you get a good bit of although Godzilla doesn't really, he's not really a main character
yeah.
here.
He's not in
He
this one
does
that
kind of feel
much. It's because
he does kind of feel silent.
the villain was originally supposed to be Bagan, and then they switched to Godzilla to get more money.
Yeah,
Yeah. But yeah. The biggest thing I don't really like about this movie is that they kind of break from the seriousness of the past few movies, and this one goes a bit more like goofy, kind of lighthearted.
yeah, because they just like pick Godzilla up and just start flying with them. So
Yeah. But overall, this movie's okay. I would put it at the bottom of B tier, behind a
I
Small
would put
Monsters.
it I'd put it lowest of A because I did actually enjoy this movie quite a bit. I mean, I know everyone has different preferences, but I actually didn't get a good kick out of this movie. Um, I just had a lot of fun with it. Mothra scenes were pretty nice. Batra, I think, was a good. We should have had, we should have had that in the New Empire where everyone just has their own anti-villain.
Yeah, yeah,
Mothra has Batra, Kong has the giant ruthless Scar
yeah.
King,
Scar
and
King.
then
And
and
then
then Godzilla Shimo.
yeah, that would have been pretty
So
interesting.
okay,
Uh,
next movie.
Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2. I think this
Ooh,
is where the Heisei era returns back to form after what is, in my opinion, a little bit of a dip. And I think this movie's really solid. I think right
I
off the
just
rip.
watched this movie last month.
Oh, nice. I'm gonna put this one in A tier, below Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, above Mothra versus Godzilla.
Surprise, surprise! Godzilla almost dies like 3 times in this movie, and
Yeah,
then he does fucking die.
that's a staple of the of the ones where he fights Mechagodzilla.
One thing I don't like about this movie is how reliant Mechagodzilla is on range. Because the moment it gets to close quarters, he just gets fucked. Like there's nothing he can do.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, although I think people glaze the Heisei era Godzilla a little bit too much in terms of power, although I do understand where they're coming from.
yeah, I agree.
Like even though Heisei Godzilla isn't really that fast on his own, once it gets to close quarters, Mechagodzilla is just screwed.
Yeah,
But
Heisei
if
Mechagodzilla is a ranged thing, just completely.
yeah, he just has to like keep the distance as far as possible, and he really does put the beating on Godzilla. I don't know if Godzilla bleeds in this movie like he did in Godzilla versus
Yeah, I don't
Mechagodzilla.
remember, but he does basically die until Rodan revives him.
Right. But this was the movie. I think this was. I don't know if this was Godzilla's toughest opponent up until this point. I think it was
Maybe.
still. Well, he did die though, so I mean,
Yeah,
I think
I don't know.
because he did need help because he soloed Ghidorah quite easily twice. He soloed Mecha King Ghidorah and Ghidorah himself, but he didn't really do much to Mecha Godzilla here. Like, yeah, he short circuited him, by reverting the pulse back into him, but he didn't really do much to him until he got the power up.
Yeah.
And even then, Mecha Godzilla was still fighting. Like, it took multiple shots.
Yeah, he does use his like red spiral breath for the first time though, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I do like that. First time I saw it, I was like, yes, get him.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie's pretty good. I like this movie.
I like it. It's very nice. I'm putting in high A tier right
Yeah.
above the previous 3 entries.
Yeah, mine's like kind of lower A tier. Yeah. Yeah, this movie's pretty good. I like it. Anyways, next is Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. This is, in my opinion, the weakest Heisei movie.
Yeah, I don't really like. I do like where it goes. I do like
It's
Manila comes back, but we finally have an acceptable design for Manila.
yeah, it's like actually cute instead of hideous this time.
But
Yeah,
the thing is, though, this is Godzilla's like first most intelligent opponent, I think.
yeah. Space Godzilla literally kidnaps little baby Godzilla,
I'm
and
trying
like
to think what else. We get Mogura here.
yeah, Mogura's in this. Yeah, Space Godzilla is a really cool design. Um,
I
yeah.
do like it a lot.
However, this movie did have a reduced budget compared to the other Heisei movies, so some of the effects don't hold up as good. Um, this movie is just kind of mid, honestly. Like
Yeah,
it's all right. I put it
I
at the
put it in the high B tier, like
I,
top of B.
I put it at the top of C.
Okay.
Um,
Um, I first time I heard Space Godzilla's roar, I thought they were Rodan like screeching,
yeah,
but apparently it's just his roar. I do like the more fierce look of him, like his face is like more sharper. Um, but is I don't know the idea of just anything space related, like for a movie franchise, is just you're kind of going off into a goofy place with
yeah,
that, and that's why I think this is the weakest entry in the Heisei era, right below 84. But there are definitely some good moments. Godzilla again uses this red spiral heat ray, which I think is pretty cool.
yeah,
But Space Godzilla, I think if he got the Hollywood treatment, I think it'd be pretty good. Although I'm not really too fond of just space ideas in general, unless it's a movie literally about space.
right. Yeah, this movie is just
Uh,
kind of whatever.
yeah, it's just like you'll enjoy it, but it's not really my kind of cup of tea.
Yeah. The next one, though, Godzilla versus Destroyer. This one is
Oh boy.
fantastic. This is, in my opinion, I'm putting this one in S tier above 1954. I love
Yeah, I'm
this
putting
movie.
this in S tier as well. I know people don't like hearing above 54, but hear us out. This movie, it does tragic stuff and it's emotional at the same time. Whereas 54 was emotional where you know, where you felt bad for the people, kind of feel bad for Godzilla, but not really because you kind of root for his death. This one just make I've seen people cry in this movie, like with this movie.
Yeah, and it helps with having Akira Ifukube's like fantastic score.
Oh my
I
god,
think this is where he like topped himself, and like I think this is his best Godzilla score.
that guy knows how to make
Yeah,
that. He knows
yeah,
how to make an emotional
yeah.
score.
This is the last Godzilla movie that he would score, and I think this is his best work in terms of movie scoring.
Man,
And it
he's
was
just
so well done. And
Akira Okafube is just
yeah,
oh my
of
god.
course,
He knows
Burning Godzilla is fantastic design. Destroyer, fantastic design. The
he's a
action
very good
is
villain. I
all
do like
great.
the horror aspect of this movie though.
Yeah, it's like it takes inspiration from the from Aliens. Um, it's this movie's just so awesome. Like,
I love it.
and even, there's even
Destroya
a great
is
design for Godzilla Jr. in this.
yeah, Godzilla Jr. is just kind of like a more scrawny
Like,
Heisei Godzilla.
yeah, and he has like a proper like beam this time, and he's able to put up a fight even though he eventually dies.
Oh,
And
that
then of
scene
course
though.
the ending is still so great.
Oh, it just makes you want to cry.
Yeah,
But then, but then the reveal. Like I just love. That's probably one of my favorite
yeah.
Godzilla moments. One of my favorite Godzilla moments of all time, where it's just like all hope is lost, and then in the distance you hear that roar, and then out of the smoke you
You
just
see
see
Godzilla
Godzilla once again,
Jr. grown up.
and then boom, title.
Yeah,
And this movie is just awesome. I
yeah.
love it. It's
This is
emotional.
a
It's
top five
action packed.
Godzilla movie to me. This is top five Godzilla
Got
movie to me.
drunk destroyer flying with Godzilla hitting a pole
Yeah,
is never
the,
gonna get old for me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This is a top five Godzilla movie in my opinion. This movie is awesome. I love it.
Yeah, awesome,
Yeah.
awesome.
The next one
Oh
is
boy,
not so awesome. Godzilla
uh,
1998.
America, America.
uh,
This was the, this was the.
uh, I'm just gonna throw this at the top of E tier and call it a
I'm
day.
putting. I don't really have E tier. I don't. I just have an. I just have the fuck this movie ranking, but I'm
Yeah.
putting it at top of D because there are aspects of this movie I do like.
Yeah, I actually think the
But
first like 20 or so minutes of this movie are pretty solid, and then it just devolves.
I here's the thing though. I always tell myself, had it not been for this movie, would we even had any more Godzilla movies after
You're
this?
right. You're right. Yeah, like I know Toho play after Godzilla versus Destroya, they were just planning on letting America take over Godzilla for a while, and then Toho would come back for the 50th anniversary in 2004. But that didn't end up happening. Of course, the 1998
They
movie was
got so
so
offended
bad
by this
that they
movie.
had to start the Millennium Era just to bring some honor back to Godzilla's name.
And speaking of the Millennium Era,
Godzilla 2000. I think this one is okay. I know you really like this one.
yeah, okay. So I just want to explain why I like this movie. Godzilla's design, I don't know why. There's just something so cool about like of course this movie kind of goes back into his roots, but I do love how um I, I do love that this movie does take itself more seriously. This is of course the apology for all the Godzilla fans up until this point.
Yeah, the
I
apology
do
for
like the
1998.
cinematography. I think the cinematography of this movie is
Yeah,
pretty good. Aside the CGI,
the CGI, yeah, they started using CGI in this one is when Toho first tried it with Godzilla, and it does not look good. But
you know,
there are some shots that are really interesting. Like they did a lot more like moving camera stuff than before. Most of the previous movies, the camera was kind of static the whole time. But this one, there's this one shot where Godzilla walks ashore and the camera pulls back, and that's something they really hadn't done much of before with Godzilla movies.
so goofy and out of place. Like you can tell that's the very obvious green screen right there.
Yeah,
Uh, I do like the fight with Orga though. I think Orga is handled
yeah, I think
good.
Orga's a pretty cool villain.
He just looks so weird, but I do love how he gets killed off though.
Yeah,
Um, but I think this is when they started to have villains of Godzilla try to beat Godzilla. Which okay, the first time you do it, it's good. The second time, it's
yeah,
not like of course with Mega Gears, which we will get into in a second.
yeah,
However, I like the ending of this movie. Aside from the aside from the Godzilla is inside of
yeah. Godzilla is in each one of us.
I can feel aside from that, like, I can feel Godzilla inside of me.
Yeah, yeah,
I do like the ending because I don't know, it's just something about that ending that's just so bittersweet.
yeah,
Um, like they can't do anything. They're just forced to watch. They're just forced to watch Godzilla destroy their city. I do like the characters in this though. I think the characters, aside from being annoying sometimes, I think they got a pretty good cast. The one dude who lights a cigarette is like in front of Godzilla is I think like peak character right there.
yeah.
He just lights the Godzilla pack and just smokes it in front of him until he just for whatever reason shouts at Godzilla, and then it's just kind of hilarious where
Yeah,
the whole building gets collapsed. But I think characters have that tenacity with them. They're charming. They're likable. I don't really find them all that annoying, aside from the little girl a little bit.
yeah,
But it's all right. But I
yeah.
think it's pretty good.
I think this movie's okay. I'm gonna put it in like mid to low B tier. I'm gonna put it above Destroy All Monsters, below Terror of Mechagodzilla.
I have it just in the lowest of A tier because I think it is better than Space Godzilla. But I don't think you know. After a few rewatches, I do understand some of the problems with it. It's just the CGI that
Yeah,
kind of ruins it for me. But I do like the story. I never really got bored with this movie.
yeah.
Unlike the next movie, which I
Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla is aggressively mid.
admit is not really.
Yeah.
So do you wanna take the stage with this one?
Yeah. This one is really boring until the final fight, and the final fight is actually pretty cool.
Like the final fight, it's not terrible, but there's nothing really good to say about the final fight either.
Well,
I think this
I just think it's really goofy because you do get like Megaguirus stabbing Godzilla in the crotch, and you get Godzilla like doing this ridiculous just jump onto Megaguirus.
watch out, watch out.
Yeah, yeah, and that was paid homage in Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire,
Oh my
when Godzilla like, charges and jumps on Scylla.
wait, that was actually a homage to it?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, that's immediately what I thought of when I saw that in
Oh my
Godzilla X
god.
Kong.
You know what? They really went like show them. Like, here's the thing. I love the Millennium Era, and Killer, of course, knows me as a huge Millennium Era fan.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the Millennium Era has like it's a mix between Showa and Heisei. You get the goofiness, cough, Godzilla jumping on Megaguirus and just body slam, but you also get the seriousness of the Heisei era. You know,
With things like
'84,
yeah.
violence.
Yeah. Uh
It's just this movie is incredibly mid. I have it at the lowest of B.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, this movie there's like a really weird aspect of this movie. Like they literally try to make a black hole gun to kill Godzilla, and I just want to know how many treaties they broke making that.
what I
Like,
do like though is it really does show you how strong Godzilla is though
because
because
he
he
survives it.
he survives the black hole gun and then he shoots into it. So that's why I'm like, how strong is this Godzilla? Because I'm pretty sure they were only 50 meters up until this point.
Yeah, I think yeah, this one's like 50 meters tall, I think.
So I mean, this movie is just incredibly boring. The soundtrack kind of like it
The
saves
soundtrack is
it.
great, I think.
I
This is
do
the
like,
yeah,
yeah, I Killer note like I know Killer loves the Godzilla versus Megaguirus.
yeah.
I think that's literally the name of it, the official soundtrack. I forgot his name, but he
Uh,
does a very good job
yeah,
composing.
her name is Michiru Oshima. I think it's the
She
only
does
like
a very,
female composer of a Godzilla movie.
hey, props to her though. She brought a very good like the theme song of this movie as well.
Yeah,
Nicely done.
and
You like that?
Megaguirus's theme is appropriately like ferocious and kind of like is like a kind of a theme you'd expect to be given to a giant bug.
I do. I think Megaguirus is an interesting villain, but I
I
don't.
like Megaguirus. I think she's a great design. I just wish she was in a better movie.
Yeah, I just like had she been in maybe the next movie we're going to talk about, or maybe something like Final Wars or something like that. I think it would have been very good. But she just kind of felt like she had more potential.
Yeah,
They were starting to cook, but didn't really know the rest of the ingredients, so they just kind of left it there.
yeah, yeah. Overall, I put this movie in C tier. Below versus Space Godzilla, above Raids Again.
Yeah, I think that's an appropriate one. I have it like the lowest of B because I do have more entertainment from the other films. But
Yeah.
the next film,
The next one, GMK, Giant Monsters All Out Attack. This movie's awesome. Top of S tier. I love this movie. This is my
putting
favorite.
it
This is a top
above,
three Godzilla movie for me.
Killer knows that I absolutely love this movie. It's just, and I actually have a series like I'm working on a series kind of based off of GMK.
Yeah,
And oh my god, is this Godzilla fucking evil?
yeah. This
I
Godzilla
mean,
is evil and awesome and powerful, and the movie itself is just so good.
I actually do wonder if they took inspiration from this movie to -1 because
They
the
did.
atomic
Yamazaki
the,
said so
the, scene-
himself.
the atomic breath scene is very reminiscent of -1, where you get that giant ass mushroom cloud.
Yeah,
And speaking of this, Godzilla's atomic breath was so like destructive.
yeah. It's almost like I feel like he could like switch it at will from like the nuke we saw from that one scene to like a regular beam like in the final fight.
But he's so sadistic as well, and it's not even he go. I know there's this scene where he's like in the hospital, like near the hospital, and
And
she's
he's
panicking, and then he just walks right by, and then boom, she just gets evicted from life.
yeah, yeah. Her soul gets evicted from her body.
She saw the whites of Godzilla's eyes, but then he showed her the whites of the Heaven's Gate.
Right. And yeah, yeah, and I think the monster like redesigns for the other monsters, I don't I think they're kind of the designs of the other monsters are kind of mixed. I think this is like the weakest mainline Ghidorah design because I think the heads look weird. I don't think the Mothra puppet was that good. I do
I
really
do,
like this Baragon design though. I think this is the
I
best
do
version
like
of
the Baragon
Baragon.
design.
Yeah.
If you watch the behind the scenes for this movie, it
Yeah,
was just
yeah,
so.
that, yeah, yeah, the like the suit actress that was in like portraying Baragon like made noises like to like yeah, and there's this like
Computer.
famous clip of that behind the scenes. It's really cute.
I do like Mothra's more wasp-like appearance, though. I think
Yeah,
it's more ferocious. Let's just talk about that music, though.
the music, the score of this movie is so
Mothra's
awesome.
I the other day I did like a little edit just to test something out, and I combined all three of their themes at once. So I first it was the Mothra theme, so it was like that very elegant, and I still
Yeah,
get goosebumps when I hear that theme because it's
yeah,
just so mystical, but it's so beautiful as well.
yeah,
And then I combine it with Ghidorah's theme, where it's like that dun dun,
yeah,
like where it
yeah.
slowly
The
fades
like
in.
kind of
Baragon's
godly
theme,
theme, kind of the divine sounding.
and
Yeah,
then a Baragon's theme, which is a little underdog,
yeah,
and then Godzilla's theme, and it just explodes into all three, like all their themes combined, which does happen in the movie with
yeah,
Godzilla's raid. Overall, this movie is just so good.
yeah.
The ending, though,
With the
I
still
don't really
beating
know because
heart.
the ending where he kind of kills himself, because you're building Godzilla up as this huge foreboding character where nothing can stop him, and the
Yeah,
only thing that does stop him is
is
himself,
himself. Yeah,
which kind of takes away from the power that they showed him for this movie. But at the same time, I kind of like it
yeah.
because
Like I don't really think it takes away from his power that much, cause like he's so powerful, nothing else can kill him. It's only
except him.
him. Yeah, I think that actually
But
makes him even more powerful and scary.
what I do like is how persistent he is. Because even when his head is decapitated, he's still trying to fire at them.
Yeah, he's just like mad.
But like, he does smile quite a bit in this movie. Like, there's the
Yeah,
scene where he's chasing everybody over the city,
yeah,
and then he just smiles, and then boom, radio, he gets the beam off.
yeah. This movie is just awesome. I love this movie.
Love it.
Yeah, top
Okay,
three Godzilla movie
period
in my
time.
opinion. All right, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. This is the start of the Kiryu saga, and it is a good start. I really like this movie.
The first movie, which actually would have some continuity in it.
Of the Millennium Era, at least.
Yes, because up until this point, everything was a reboot. Which
Yeah.
I mean, sure, but at the same time, I mean, people are gonna hate and love it because you get new Godzilla retakes every single time, but it does kind of get a little bit old because, like, okay,
Okay, yeah, like let's get a bit of continuity in here, of course. But yeah,
but they
uh,
do a good job with it.
yeah, this movie is really cool. I like Godzilla's design in this movie a lot. I like Kiryu's design a lot. I think this one actually has a really solid human storyline.
Yeah, I actually was never bored with the human characters of this movie. I was pretty entertained with it. I was on board for most of the time. I think this is the best Mechagodzilla design to date. I quite enjoy it.
Yeah, that's my second favorite Mechagodzilla design. I prefer the MonsterVerse one personally, but yeah, I think this is the best Toho Mechagodzilla design.
For sure. Yeah, best Toho Mechagodzilla design. I'm still thinking about that Mechagodzilla from 2021 though. I don't know. There's just ooh, we're gonna talk about that.
We'll get to
But
GVK later, yeah.
this movie, they actually do a good switch where it's Godzilla who's usually the underdog. He's actually Mechagodzilla is now the underdog of this movie.
Yeah, Mechagodzilla is the hero. I think the biggest problem with the Kiryu saga as a whole is that Godzilla himself feels kind of weak sometimes, but um, outside that, I think this movie in particular is great.
Yeah,
I would put this movie in like mid A tier. I
yeah.
would
I
put
give
it
this an eight.
behind Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, above Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2. It's solid A tier.
Yeah, I have this movie as mid A tier because
Me
I
too.
actually do enjoy it. The theme for this movie, the music, I didn't really. I like the music. The
It's
Kiryu
the
theme, I quite enjoy.
Yeah, it's the same composer as Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, so they kind of carry
And
over the Godzilla
you
theme.
kind of hear the music within like throughout this movie.
Yeah,
But I do quite enjoy it. I was never bored with it. I think the ending was quite nice. The battles were pretty good, nicely choreographed. The CGI was much better here,
yeah,
and overall, I don't really have too many problems with this movie.
yeah.
Unlike the next movie, which is a
Tokyo
significant step down.
SOS, yeah, is kind of I don't dislike it, but it's just kind of okay in my opinion. Like,
It's just a mid movie.
yeah, I it's basically just a step down from the previous one in almost every way. The humans aren't nearly as interesting. Mothra's cool, and I really like Mothra's design in this movie, but
Yeah, it's basically a better Heisei.
yeah, and I think the action is still pretty good. And the designs, yeah, of course, the designs are still top notch. So it's basically the same movie, except the humans are worse. I put it in B tier, like mid to low B tier, right above Godzilla 2000. They're basically around the same area for me.
I have it above. I have it in the highest of B tier, above Space Godzilla.
Yeah,
I do like the music for this movie. I think Mothra's theme song, in my opinion,
yeah,
is the best in this movie. The Shobi do a great job
yeah,
with that. Uh, Mothra again gets butchered by Godzilla, but
yeah,
that's to be expected.
yeah, yeah. This movie is just okay. I think it gets glazed way too hard by a lot of people. It is not as good as Godzilla against Mechagodzilla.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely do think it's a significant step down, but you do have some very good moments with it.
Yeah,
Um, they do bring some returning characters though for this movie, which I actually do enjoy.
yeah. But yeah, yeah, this movie's okay. Final Wars. This movie is awesome. This movie kicks ass.
For sure. This was, I think, Toho pretty much saw the failure with with Tokyo SLS,
Yeah,
so they just want to go all out with this movie, and I'm so glad they did.
yeah. Yeah, this is 50th anniversary. They brought back a whole bunch of Showa monsters. Um,
Pretty
and
much the destroy all monsters of the
yeah,
Millennium Era.
they just did a whole just big kaiju brawl movie, and that's pretty
I
much
think
all this movie is.
I think people glaze Final Wars Godzilla a little bit too much. I don't think he's nearly as powerful as a lot of people say he is,
He's
because he
still
kind
really
of.
strong though. He does destroy pretty much everyone.
But like everyone, every monster he does fight in this movie is just kind of shit to begin with.
Yeah,
Every
with the exception of Kaiser Ghidorah, who beats him up until he
Monster
gets his
X,
power up.
absolutely. I just need to see Monster X return. He was
Yeah,
so cool. His
and
intro,
I think Kaiser Ghidorah is even cooler than Monster X in my opinion.
yeah, I think Kaiser Ghidorah. I need to just see a MonsterVerse version of Kaiser Ghidorah, because while I'm being told he's the most strongest kaiju, I'm not really seeing it that well.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, they're telling you that he's the strongest, but you don't really see he's the strongest.
yeah, yeah. This
It's
movie
Godzilla's ass so hard.
yeah, this movie is like kind of like people might notice that I put like the goofy, fun Showa movies kind of low mostly, but I put this one, which is also goofy and fun, super high. But the difference is that the other ones are just stupid fun. This is stupid, fun, and so cool at the same time.
And on top of that, whereas most of the time you would expect the human characters to be bad, they're also getting in on the action as well.
Yeah, and of course you can't forget about the best human character in the whole franchise, Captain Gordon.
Don Fry himself.
Yeah.
Listen, kid, there's only two things you need to worry about. One is me, the other is Godzilla. Such a cold ass line.
Yeah. And then the yeah, this movie is so funny.
Oh, and then when he hits
Yeah,
hits
yeah, when he just
like
hits that alien lady.
she's like kid, like just picture the nerd emoji like pointing up saying you can't hit a girl, and he's just like you're right, and then just fucking bitch slaps her. I actually love that a lot. But this movie does kind of fall in more into the Western action type thing.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad they went all out with this movie, because you get kaiju action, you get
Human
human
action, yeah.
over the top. The score of this movie is pretty good. I do like Godzilla's theme.
Yeah.
It's it's just so good.
Yeah, this movie is just really fun. I put this in S tier, above 1954, behind Godzilla vs. Destroyer.
Yeah, I put it in S tier as well. It's the lowest of S tier.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie is really cool. All right.
What do you think
After
of
that,
Godzilla's design?
what?
What do you think of Godzilla's design?
I like it a lot. I like Godzilla's design a lot.
He's very. I know you don't really like the skinniness of the design, but I do think
I think
you know
everything else
they really
outside
brought
of the
out the
skinniness is
musculature.
really cool. I think outside the skinniness, I love this design. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely do think was it. It's I don't. It's kind of a toss up for me between GMK's design, because I do like that, but I wish they just made GMK not have that fucking beer belly.
Yeah, I think my favorite Millennium design is probably the Kiryu Saga design, and then closely
Yeah,
followed by Final Wars.
I really love the Kiryu Saga design. It's
Yeah, and you know how you know that Millennium designs are really good when my least favorite one is the Godzilla 2000 design, even though it's still really good.
It's a very cool design. I love it.
Yeah, and it's just I like the other Millennium Godzilla designs even more.
It's just this movie. It's just a full on turn your brain off. Get
Turn your
two
brain
beers
off
in,
and have fun with it.
2 beers, 5 friends, and you guys are gonna enjoy it.
Yeah. Or if you're not, or if you're like me and not old enough for beers, then I don't know, just grab some like orange juice or something.
Some apple juice.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But this movie, don't come to this movie expecting story or anything. Come to this movie and just don't think about logic. You're
Yeah.
gonna have a blast.
I think the only thing that might slightly drag this movie down a bit is the side plot with Manila.
That one, yeah, that's kind of the only negative thing I have about it. Which Manila doesn't look as disgusting
Yeah, he doesn't
as he
look
was.
as bad as he did in the show era, but he still looks really bad.
It just looks ugly. But I do like Godzilla. I do love Gigan in this movie as well. I think this is the best
His
guy.
design is amazing. It's just that he's really weak.
He gets beat like twice,
He gets
but
yeah, he gets just one shot by Godzilla, and then he like gets like a cross kill with Mothra where they both kill each other.
I do love how they kind of play because Gigan has always been. I've always looked at Gigan kind of like Rodan because Rodan has always been this cockier fighter, but he's Rodan is fearless as Rodan just doesn't fear anyone.
Yeah.
He like this can be seen in King of the Monsters when he fucking charges Ghidorah.
Yeah.
But
Except he does kind of fear Godzilla at the end because he bows to him.
at the well, I mean, he kind of did have the balls to just run in a little bit.
Yeah.
But Gigan is just cocky. There's just no other way to say. He's just cocky and thinks he can do anything until he
Yeah.
gets his head blown by Godzilla. I
Yeah.
do love the like. Again, Mothra dies in this movie. Spoiler alert. But I
Yep.
think it was a pretty
Well,
badass
Mothra
death.
dies in almost every movie.
I do think this is Mothra's most badass way of dying
Yeah,
because
I agree
she
because she
burns.
took Gigan with her.
She burns, throws his like cylinder like or like disc back at him, slices him, and then in her burning form just charges at him, blows him up, and I think that's just so cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
The music in that scene as well, I really do love it. It's
Yeah.
just like, oh, this movie is so good.
Yeah, this movie's a blast. Anyways, after this, the franchise would take a 9.5 year break, and
I think that's the longest break for a
yeah, that's
Godzilla
the
movie
longest
ever.
break. Yeah, and it would return in 2014 with the start of the
Roaring,
MonsterVerse and America's
roaring.
second try at a Godzilla movie. And it,
See, that first one, it was the attempt. This one is the apology, and then
yeah,
the next movie is the redemption.
yes, yes, this is an apology for 1998, and then King of the Monsters is where they really hit their stride. But even
So,
then, 2014 is still really good. I like this
yeah,
movie
I'll
a
let you take
lot.
the stage with this one since I'm kind of like more the critic of this movie, but I did watch it the other day and I do have some good things to say about
Yeah.
it. But I'll let you take the stage with this one.
Yeah, this movie is just really solid. The human stuff is like kind of mixed. I think the like Bryan Cranston's character is fantastic and one of the best MonsterVerse human characters. Unfortunately, they kill him off like 40 minutes into the movie. Um,
I can't get over King Kong's line in GRB's rap battle.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. uh,
Just like Bryan Cranston, you've been dead since
it's
the
the
first
first
act.
act, yeah. Um, yeah, this movie is the the sense of scale and the cinematography is probably the best of the whole franchise. Just the sense of scale. You feel the weight of these creatures like in no other kaiju movie.
I feel Godzilla inside of me. I'm
uh
just kidding. Okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna take the stage here a little bit then.
Okay.
So so the first time I watched this movie, I of course I'm gonna skip past the theater reaction. But the last time I did watch this movie, actually, might as well talk about it. I did enjoy this movie. I kind of felt robbed a little bit though because they they tease you with Godzilla, but they have two perfectly set up scenes with Godzilla. The introduction scene, which I do think is one of the best MonsterVerse moments, where the camera pans up because at the
Yeah,
airport
at the airport
everyone's screaming and crying. He steps his foot down
and
and everyone
everyone's
just shuts
silent.
up. To be fair, I think that would that is that kind of a natural reaction though, or is that kind of
I
just
don't know. Maybe.
because everyone just kind of just goes dead silent? But the camera pans up in this awesome way where you see Godzilla roaring, and I think it's one of his best roars
I think
ever.
this is his best roar is the 2014 roar.
and then they just cut to a television screen.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I think the cutting
what?
away was a little like I think it was fine the first couple times, but then they just kept doing it.
I'm just like, what the hell is this? You're
Yeah,
robbing me.
yeah.
And then the scene where the Muto again meets Godzilla, where he rises from the ocean.
And then it
That you
closes
had
the
another
door on it.
perfectly you had another perfectly set up scene right there. And that's where I first thought, okay, now we're gonna get our fight. And then they just close. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, they literally
So the
closed a
second time
door
they're
on
doing
the
it, now
scene. They
they're
closed a
not blue
door
balling
in your
everyone for it.
face.
They literally shut the door on our faces, and then the final act of this movie. I mean, it's just like they still had the nerve to cut away with some scenes.
Yeah. But the parts I do like about this movie, um, again, certain moments are so awesome.
The atomic breath reveal. Oh my god! When I
Yeah.
saw this first time ever, I was like, okay, at this point they're probably making this natural and realistic. We're not going to get the atomic breath
And then you see the blue
until
glow on Aaron Taylor
blue
Johnson's
glow
character's
just starts
face.
forming, and it just gets higher and higher. And then
Yeah.
as you know, as the sound
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh no, they're doing it. I'm telling you, everyone started cheering.
Yeah. This is the first Godzilla movie I watched. I watched it in theaters right around my 8th birthday when it came out. And I didn't know Godzilla could do that. Yeah, so it was, yeah, and my dad didn't know either because he took me to it, and so we were both really surprised about it, and it was awesome. And of course, you can't talk about this movie and not mention the kiss of death at the end.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah, one of the best like kills like ever.
The
So
MonsterVerse Godzilla is really brutal. I feel like
yeah,
people don't
he
dismiss him.
he is like savage in some parts. He murders other monsters in the most painful ways.
I know it's not in the movies, but in the comics, he literally rips the spine out of the murder fish. And I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
I
this
like,
Godzilla, like, people really don't give him that much credit.
yeah. Like people are like, oh, Heisei's stronger because of dumb power scaling shit. Final Wars is stronger because of dumb power scaling. Who cares? Monsters Godzilla is so strong, especially in the later movies. They literally purpose made the like late MonsterVerse Godzilla, like more recent MonsterVerse Godzilla. They have purposely made it to where he is overpowered. He is
And they
so
fully
strong.
acknowledge this too.
Yeah, it has taken until his evolved form for people to acknowledge this.
There's some Godzilla has evolved.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this movie a lot. It is the first one I watched, so I do have a little bit of nostalgia for it. I put it at
So where do you put this movie?
I put this at the top of A tier, above Godzilla versus Biollante.
See, I'm kind of conflicted about this movie because I really try not to be a critic with this movie, or just with any Godzilla movie. You know that with the new Empire,
Yeah.
but I just try to go into this movie, every movie, with low expectations because I'm like, okay, I don't really want to expect anything because I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to enjoy it. I watched this the other day, and I just sat down because keep in mind I haven't watched it since King of the Monsters,
Yeah.
and I watched it, and I actually did kind of enjoy it. I didn't. I kind of did a weird flip. I looked at this as not a Godzilla movie, if that makes sense. I kind of just
Yeah.
looked at this as a Hollywood movie that happened to have Godzilla in it, and I did enjoy it a decent amount. Um, Again, I was still like the cutting away kind of just got obnoxious for me, but the tone, the scaling, um, you know, I think are handled extremely well,
Yeah.
and I actually do enjoy the movie. Um, I I kind of want to put this behind uh, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla in A tier,
Yeah, understandable. Yeah.
but it's definitely my least favorite MonsterVerse movie.
Yeah, yeah. It is on the lower end of the Monsters movies for me, but I like it quite a bit. But yeah.
So we're
Next.
we're in agreement.
Next is Shin Godzilla.
All right, I'll let you take the stage with this one, my friend.
This one is great. This movie is so good. Like I know like a lot of people when this movie came out, they did not like it because it was so weird and different. But obviously since then, the attitude towards this movie has completely changed and everyone loves it now. I'm gonna right off the rip put this in S tier, behind GMK, above Godzilla vs. Destroyer.
I'm gonna put it. I'm gonna put it behind at 54, but above Final Wars
Yeah.
because there are aspects of this movie I do quite enjoy, but I just get more of a kick of the other. Actually, speaking of, I'm gonna put this above 54. Um,
It
I
is
just
very similar to 54 in a lot of ways. It's
I
super
do like the
dark.
message. I forgot what kind of natural disaster they were referencing. Wasn't like some kind of
It's
like
like an earthquake and tsunami and nuclear power plant meltdown.
okay,
The
so
2011 Tohoku disasters in Japan.
I do feel like people glaze Shin Godzilla a little bit too much. They're like, oh, he's so powerful, he cut through
Yeah,
buildings.
he like
Okay, but like,
he is not that strong. Fourth form Shin Godzilla is not that strong. Then people are gonna talk about evolution, his evolution, and that he can become like a god. But like that
okay,
is
but that's
almost
just like
entirely
the theory.
speculative.
That's
We
just like
haven't
we don't even
seen
know
that.
if he can.
Yeah,
Like it's described in the movie that he can fly, but at the same time, it's not really canon.
yeah, yeah. It's all
Like what?
speculation.
Cutting through buildings. Cutting through buildings. Okay, so what? Godzilla fucking melted Destroyer in '95. Like,
Yeah,
and he's just an animal in this. He's not really like
and he cut
sentient.
through the entire Earth in 2021.
Whoa, Superman.
Yeah,
I'm
wasn't
just
like,
like
oh, but this one could cut through buildings. But I
okay,
always
but like
say minus
minus one
one
in
just
GMK,
vaporized a whole ton of buildings.
and then oh my god, it's
Yeah,
just
but
it's
still, this movie is great. Of course,
fans aside, it's a
the
good movie. I
this
really enjoy it.
yeah the standout scene is of course when he just goes all out in the middle of Tokyo at nighttime and just destroys the whole city.
It's a beautifully, and this is actually the first time they use a fully CGI Godzilla, if I'm not mistaken.
In the Toho movies at least, yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was yeah, this movie is just so awesome. Yeah, a
I love it.
great return to form for serious Toho Godzilla movies, and its influence is still felt to this day.
They use a lot of the 84 roars and 62 roars, which I do love.
Yeah,
Um, and the 54 roars, like they in his introduction where he evolves into his third form, they use the music from the 54 movie, which I enjoy.
yeah. And some people complain about the score of this movie, how it like reuses too much music. And sure, it does reuse a lot of music, but the original music that was composed for this movie is just peak. Like,
I do like it a lot.
yeah, like Persecution of the Masses and Who Will Know, two fantastic songs.
Right. Who will know like what is it? The I sent you like the rock version of it, and I think that's so good.
Yeah. I think the original version is also just peak.
Yeah,
It
it's
fits
just
the
such.
movie so well.
Yeah, I love it. Oh boy,
Yeah.
the next one.
Next one, anime trilogy.
Do you wanna take because I'm not really too familiar with this. You wanna
Yeah.
take do you wanna just do all three of these at the same time?
Yeah, we'll run we'll lightning round this. Godzilla Planet of the Monsters. It sets up some interesting ideas, but as a whole, this movie is really boring up until the end. And it's just too much science jargon and just yapping about random shit, and it's just not that fun. Um, the characters are a very mixed bag. The main character is rather annoying.
Yeah, I agree. From what I remember, this movie just it takes it's a whole lot of yapping until the
Yeah,
final act.
yeah. It's a lot of just they're just talking about random stuff for it's. I feel like it's to pad out the runtime.
Right. I put this movie in top of C tier.
Yeah, I put it at like kind of mid to low D tier. Um, above Godzilla vs. Hedorah, below Ebirah Horror of the Deep.
I understand that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I like Godzilla Earth's design quite a bit though.
yeah, Phileas is pretty cool. I do like it,
And then the ending
but it
reveal
just
with Godzilla Earth, just
I
rising up
think
out of the
that's really
ground,
well
is, in my
done.
opinion, the best scene of the movie. Yeah, this movie's pretty cool. I like it.
Overall, a whole lot of gap until the end,
Actually, why did I
but
say I like it? I was thinking that scene is pretty cool. I like it. The movie is not so cool. It's boring.
yeah, right. Okay, the next one.
City on the Edge of Battle. This is, in my opinion, the worst of the trilogy. It takes the boring parts of Planet of the Monsters and makes them even more boring, and doesn't have the cool parts. And it
Yeah,
wastes its Mechagodzilla potential completely, and just makes him a city.
it's so fucking stupid. I have this at the lower end of D tier.
I have this at the bottom of E tier. This is my second least favorite Godzilla movie. It's
Nothing is.
so boring. And the characters are still so uninteresting. The only character
The
in
action
this
as
whole
well is
trilogy, yeah, the only character in this whole trilogy that I like is the villain character, Metphys.
even then, it's just still a whole lot of yap.
Yeah. Anyways,
But then
the Planet
the next
Eater.
movie,
Um,
I actually think this is the best out of the trilogy.
I agree, but it's still kind of bad. I put it right above Planet of the Monsters in D tier, but it's still not good. I don't like they kind of again waste Ghidorah's potential by having him just be these noodles. I do think this has the best character work of the trilogy though.
I agree.
Um, and the best music. I think the music in all three of these movies is really good, but it especially is great in this one.
Yeah, the Planet Eater. I have this movie at the top of C tier, right above the first one,
Yeah,
but at the same time is just I have the Planet Eater in the top of C tier. I have the first movie in right behind it, and
yeah,
then I have the second movie, City on the Edge of Battle, lower end of D tier.
yeah. Anyways, now
Oh boy,
King of the
your favorite
Monsters. This
King of the
was my
Monsters.
favorite one until Godzilla minus one, but we'll get to that later. This one is, oh, I have so much love for this movie.
I love it a lot.
Um,
Oh
I
God,
I have a tier above S tier, X tier, X for Zillion, even though Zillion's not in this movie, and it's just for this movie, King of the Monsters. I adore this movie and everything about it, even the parts that technically aren't that great.
I watched this the other day, and keep in mind, it's been what 3 years since I watched it, and oh my God, I remember why I love this movie so much. The music, oh my lord.
This is one of my favorite like musical scores ever.
Godzilla's theme. He has so many good like his theme is really present throughout the movie. The Rebirth as well, it's so good. Battle
Yeah,
of Boston,
and of course, all
amazing.
the other bosses have fantastic themes too.
Rodin's chase scene, I think, is very well done. The Antarctica battle, so well done.
The battle in
Burning
Boston,
Godzilla's
yeah, the battle in Boston, the final battle, I think is probably my favorite kaiju battle in history. And
let's not forget Ghidorah's roar.
oh yeah, the alpha roar on the volcano.
It's just so like my friend saw this movie in RPX. Okay,
Yeah.
RPX. The entire theater shook when Ghidorah roared, and I'm so jealous of that.
I saw this movie twice in IMAX and I loved it. But actually, I think after my first watch, I couldn't even form an opinion on it because so much just happened and I needed to watch it again to process it. And then on my second watch in IMAX, ooh, this is just a special movie to me. This is the movie
So,
that made me really love Godzilla.
so this movie originally I had it bottom of A tier. Okay,
Yeah.
why the fuck is wait? Hold on. Why is GMK an A tier? Okay, hold on. Let me just read it. Okay, but I had this movie in mid B. Okay, or sorry, mid A. But after that rewatch, I just something in me clicked, and I was like, okay, this movie is fucking awesome. I remember why I loved it so much. I do wish they didn't reveal Burning Godzilla in the trailers, though. That's kind of,
Yeah. I think they did show a
but
bit too much in the trailers, but I think the first trailer that they released, like the previous summer, is one of the greatest trailers ever, in my opinion.
I personally love the second trailer more because it just has that action, the music as well.
Yeah.
But I really love the first trailer. King of the Monsters, that ending scene as well is probably my top five favorite Godzilla moments. Just him roaring in the sky with the music, everyone bowing to
And
him.
he lives up
Because
to
before this,
he really becomes the king of the monsters. Like obviously he's had that title since the 50s, but this is when he really shows it.
yeah, because
The,
because that title was just a mere like unofficial title,
yeah, this
but
movie was his coronation.
this movie was. really to show fans who are younger to the franchise, like sorry, newer to the franchise, that he is the king. A question for you though: were you a fan of? I know you watched 2014 prior, but were you ever a huge Godzilla fan prior to this movie?
I the only Godzilla movie I'd seen before King of the Monsters was 2014, so I wasn't that familiar with the rest of the franchise. But I did like Godzilla 2014 a lot. I liked the character. I just wasn't familiar with like that familiar with the rest of the franchise until probably about a year before King of the Monsters came out. And then King of the
Okay.
Monsters was what really convinced me that I needed to watch the rest of the movies.
Yeah, I put King of the Monsters top of S tier because I really enjoyed this movie. The
Yeah,
soundtrack as well. Barry McCreary outdid himself. Um, I think just a lot of this movie is so peak.
yeah, yeah. This movie is just awesome.
Do you want to get the television series out of the way first before we talk about the last three movies?
Um, I still think we should go in release order, so I think we should do Godzilla versus Kong, and then we'll do the
Oh
two
my
TV
God. Okay.
shows, and then
All right.
minus one and GXK. So Godzilla
So
versus Kong. I'll let you take this one
this
away because I
movie.
know you. I know you like this one more than I do.
Okay. Okay. So we've waited for this movie for so long. It came to the point where it got delayed so many times. It got delayed. And then it got to the point where everyone was like, okay, at this point, we're not even going to have Godzilla versus Kong. Until that trailer dropped that day. And I remember
Such
we
a good trailer.
scrambled, we scrambled into DMs just yelling about it, like to each other saying, trailer is out, trailer is out.
Yeah,
And oh my, and I think it's the highest viewed trailer of the MonsterVerse, which
by
props to them.
far, it has over 100 million views on YouTube, which is, I think, in like, I would guess that's at least in the top 25 highest viewed trailers on YouTube in general, like movie
Yeah,
trailers.
in terms of trailers, definitely. But it just shows how much of an impact Godzilla and Kong have.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen them fight. They were supposed to fight in the Heisei era, but that got deleted, I think. And it's this movie that was just, oh my god, so fucking awesome. I do think they kind of blew their load a little bit by the end of the production where they showed off a little bit too much, but I still got a huge kick of this movie. Um, I think Wingard understood the assignment.
Yeah.
Although I do think this movie, after giving it another rewatch, I do think it has the weakest human characters of the series. Of
Yeah, I agree. It has
Monsterverse.
the weakest of the MonsterVerse human characters, but I think that makes up for it by having probably just the most consistently awesome kaiju like fights in the whole genre.
No cutaways.
No
Wingard
cutaways.
understood.
He understood the assignment and he cooked.
It's just so there's so many things in this movie I enjoy. The Tasman Sea battle where Godzilla comes onto like
Yeah, and
and
you are like you're legitimately scared for Kong's life in that scene.
Godzilla plays very dirty in their fight, but I know you and I have talked before where we're like, can you imagine if Godzilla was just evil like this? Like how
If the
fucked you would
MonsterVerse
be.
Godzilla just decided he didn't like humans anymore at all and just wanted them gone, there would be nothing that could be done to stop him.
Yeah, no, he would, and especially in his evolved state. Oh my god, yeah, nothing can stop. But he plays very dirty in their first fight. You know, fast forward a little bit, the Hong Kong battle. Oh my god! While it is nighttime, the neon lights look very good.
Yeah. This movie is just all like you go to it for the action and you stay for the action because there it doesn't offer anything else because the human
I do
side is
think
not good.
I do think it has the second to last weakest music. I don't
Yeah,
really
I
think Joe
don't think the
Exotic is a
music in this
fan.
movie. I think there are a few, like a couple tracks in this movie that I really like. I like all the tracks and like basically everything in Hong Kong with
Mhm.
the final fights between Godzilla and Kong and then the Mechagodzilla fight. And I think
The intro as well.
and the intro credits. Yeah. The intro credits really get you hyped up.
It's like a boxing match that you've been waiting for, which we all have.
Yeah. So yeah, I really like this movie. I'm gonna put it at the top of A tier. I have a hard time decide whether I want to put it above or below 2014.
I don't know why. I
I
don't
think
know.
tentatively I'm gonna put it right above 2014.
I don't know why I always thought you hated Godzilla versus Kong because until you said no, you actually like Godzilla versus Kong. I was
I
like,
really
oh,
like
never
it. I
mind.
just like King of the Monsters a lot more.
Yeah, I just kind of got you just liked the King of the Monsters way too much,
Yeah,
but I do think that team up. I love how we all knew the team up was coming,
we all knew
but it's
team
the
up
way
coming,
they
and we yeah,
bro. Godzilla got his ass beat by,
by
and this is the
Mechagodzilla.
hardest he's ever been physically beaten by Mecha Godzilla.
Yeah, like he just Mechagodzilla was just abusing him at that point.
He wasn't even using like any special weapons until the beam clash. Oh my god!
Yeah,
I think in every iteration of Godzilla fighting Mecha Godzilla, there's always been that beam clash. It's just this movie. This movie gave us what we wanted, and the like where Kong is like trying to hold off like fend off Mecha G until Godzilla like charges the axe, and then Kong is like, "Hold up, wait, what are you doing? Oh, I get what you're doing," and then just
yeah,
slices him off bit by bit,
yeah,
chops his head off, Mortal Kombat style. Oh my god, them
yeah.
teaming up was just so good. I don't have enough good things to say
Yeah,
about this
if there
movie.
was one thing I wish they did better is that I kind of wish it tried to do a better job at being a sequel to King of the Monsters because it kind of ignored
Right.
a bit of continuity. I know when they were originally making this movie, it was supposed to be more in line with King of the Monsters. It was supposed to be darker, longer. But then after King of the Monsters' financial failure, they decided to switch it to be a bit more lighthearted and yeah.
This movie did very good given the circumstances it was
Yeah,
put
it,
in.
it it gave confidence to movie theater. It saved movie theaters. Like it
And this is
it
why
gave
this
the
movie is so
confidence
special.
to studios. It made studios confident enough to start releasing their blockbusters back in theaters.
But I do think, um, what is it? Yeah, I do agree that I wish they did keep that continuity. I do wish they brought back Bear McCree because
Cause
Junkie
yeah,
XL doesn't really seem like a fan of the franchise. He just kind of seems like he wants his paycheck and dip.
right, yeah,
But I do think this movie did very well. It understood the assignment, gave us exactly what
yeah,
we asked for. It gives us Godzilla versus Kong in spectacular action, and there's just a lot of iconic scenes in this movie. Like Godzilla drilling a hole was took me by surprise. If I got to be honest,
yeah.
I did not. I
Well, I
didn't think
remember.
he was.
I remember when I was watching this in IMAX, I thought he was drilling a hole to where Mechagodzilla was, and not drilling a hole to Kong. But then when I saw in the Hollow Earth the beam just flying through and destroying that whole place, then it's like, oh, this Godzilla is angry
Here's the thing. I'm pretty sure he was charging that beam up for about like hours or even a day.
because he was glowing the whole time basically. Yeah,
Like I think it was the entire night. He was just like charging that up. Imagine if that hit Kong or Mecha Godzilla. It's just
they
GG.
would vaporize them. Yeah,
But it's just like this Godzilla. I do love the Pensacola fight. I think this Godzilla's theme is very good as well. I do like that more darker, booming theme.
yeah.
Not as good as Bear McCreary's theme, but I do love his
It
darker theme.
it works for this
Well, he's
like
not
more
really
meaner Godzilla.
he's not really a villain, but he's just more of like a dick.
Yeah, he's just
Um,
mean. Like,
I don't know if you were looking more into this movie on the inside as I was back before this was released, but I don't know if you never noticed, but Godzilla's dorsal plates looked very spiky. Like they didn't look anything like King of the Monsters. They look very spiky
yeah,
and very
yeah. This
sharp.
movie
And
generally
I'm
kept King
wondering,
of the Monsters design, except they just made it spikier.
I'm just one no no, like no even this because I wonder if they took the original concept because they changed the design later on to fit King of the Monsters more. But this picture, there's a few other pictures, but I can't really find them.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah. Some like the concept art. Yeah, that looks really spiky. Wow.
yeah, I'm wondering if Wingard had evolved Godzilla's spikier form be the concept for what GVK was supposed to be
And
like.
then they changed, and but then they decided to go with the King of the Monsters design instead.
I wonder if that's what happened. If Wingard
Yeah,
ever says about that,
that. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
I don't know. Just it's too much of a coincidence.
yeah. But yeah, um,
Okay, we've just been yapping about this movie for about like
yeah.
damn near 10 minutes. I'm not really
There's
too.
I haven't seen Singular Point, so I can't really talk about it.
I haven't. It's been a while since I've seen it. It's definitely better in my opinion than the anime trilogy. some parts do lack, but when you get Godzilla, you get Godzilla, and for that, I'll be putting it in the lower end of B tier.
All right.
There are some parts that fall, but the fights at the end are pretty good, I'd say. Godzilla's atomic breath is one of the coolest I've ever seen, and I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah.
Um, I'll be putting in the lower end of B, and I'll let you take the stage for Monarch
Yeah.
since I got my own
Monarch.
thought.
So this series, I think the first half of the series was a little lacking. There were a couple good episodes. I really liked episode 3, the one where they nuked Godzilla. Um, but overall, the first half of the series just wasn't that good. But then the second half of the show was so good, and really redeemed this series for me, especially the last two episodes. Like
Me
the
personally,
ep episode 9 was like super much like emotional and like the build up to the end, and then episode 10 brought it all together. It was great.
here's the thing though. All of this stuff that takes place in the 50s, I think, was done very well.
I agree.
But all the new characters are just so annoying. Like the
The
girl that just keeps on yapping about what was it, her dad, the black girl as well, I think just was she was also super annoying.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
the modern day characters are too whiny.
they were just way too bitchy about everything. And that's kind of what weighed the series down for me. We barely got any monster action in this, and if you're promoting Monarch Legacy of Monsters, I want to see the monsters. It was more like Monarch Legacy of you're not getting any monsters until the last few episodes.
Yeah.
But for what we got, I mean, I think it's a good start. I mean, I like what they're going, but I hope they take.
I
Um,
hope they learn. I hope they learn from what worked with this from this season and apply that to the next season without bringing it over the bad stuff.
yeah, everything that they did good, I hope that they improve on and expand upon.
Yeah.
But I hope they just don't make their characters as bitchy.
Yeah.
But I'll
I
put it
agree.
in low B, high C.
Yeah. I think the last episode's enough for me to put it into like mid A tier personally. Behind GVK in 2014 though.
Yeah, it's an emotional episode, and I do like it. But I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted.
Yeah.
I'll at the end of the video when we get our entire like once we conclude our list and we go over everything, then I think I'll put my ranking on. But Monarch Legacy of Monsters, I'm putting in low B, right behind Ultima.
All right. All right.
Oh boy,
Now, the
now it's your
last
film.
two. -1. This is my
I'll let you
favorite
take the
movie of
table.
all time. Um, yeah. So obviously, you know where I'm putting it. It's at the very top. It's
Yeah,
just no movie has ever just like given me the feeling that this movie does, you know? Like the feeling that like your favorite character and franchise has reached a a height that it had never seen before, both artistically and in terms of popularity and global standing among pop culture. And it's just it was very surreal seeing this movie get so much praise, seeing
dude.
everyone get into the franchise for the first time. People were discovering just how great Godzilla could be, and
Yeah,
yeah,
I love that this movie brought together new like fans because I think I've always I'm just gonna throw it out that I think I've liked Godzilla longer than you have.
yeah,
Um,
you're right, yeah,
and just see because I was always quiet about my liking for Godzilla. It was only until GVK where I was kind of more open about it. But I mean, I think we've known each other longer than we've seen like before GVK came out, right?
I'm not sure. I think we met around the same year that came out at least.
Yeah, I mean, we started off as like not really liking each other, but
Yeah,
now
yeah,
we're
yeah,
buddies. But I was always quiet about it because I remember back then people would kind of make fun of you for liking such a cheesy, goofy character, and I mean, I hate that so much because Godzilla isn't like okay, well he kind of is, but
he is cheesy sometimes. He's sometimes
he's not
cheesy.
just a cheesy character though.
Yeah,
But I love -1 this was the biggest "told you so" moment for me. This was this was just me saying, "Everyone, I told you so."
Yeah,
This
and
movie,
now it's cool to like Godzilla because of this movie.
but there is also a huge, huge, huge consequence now
Yeah, there's a bit of a drawback. There's people saying that now Godzilla has to be serious, and yeah, I'll let
that
you take
every
that. I'll
movie
let
has to be
yeah,
like -1.
yeah,
I'm impressed with what they did though, given the budget.
yeah. They made this movie for I think it was around $12 million, and it
Which,
looks so good. No wonder it won that Oscar, and I'm glad it won that Oscar.
hey, his first Oscar as well.
Yeah, the first yeah, the first non-Hollywood movie to get an Oscar for visual effects.
Hey, we were cheering when that happened. We
Oh
were just
yeah.
like, "Yes,
Well,
he's
I
won the
was in the
Oscar."
movie theater watching Dune Part 2 when that happened, but yeah, I knew I as soon as I got out of the theater and saw that, I was like, "Oh yeah, let's go."
You just we us Godzilla fans have been eating so well.
Yeah.
It's just this movie is
Yeah,
awesome.
we're eating
Um,
so
I,
we've been just eating great meal after great meal in the past 6 months. We got Monarch and then this and then GXK.
me personally, I'm gonna put this at S tier, but I'm gonna put it behind GVK. Now, let me explain why. I kind of I didn't expect what they were going for with this movie. I thought it was gonna go in a completely other direction. Hence why I kind of came out like, oh, I wish they did that. But the more I reflected upon it, I just loved it because it reminded me why I love Godzilla so much. After the heroic but like anti-hero vibe they went with, he's just evil in this movie, and I love GMK, and it kind of reminds me of GMK. So that's why I put it in S tier. But there's just something about Godzilla versus Kong's hype that I will never forget.
Yeah, I
We were
understand.
It's
Yeah.
just something about that hype, the ending of that movie where they've joined forces, team up, start beating the shit out of Mechagodzilla together, them working together, charging up that axe, chop like it's just so good seeing them fight again. I just love it for that. -1, it's the Godzilla Source scene in -1, I think is very well done. I love the more horror vibe of that. I don't. It's for me, it's a tie, but I just love Godzilla versus Kong more due to the what we got and what I was expecting. This movie, while I wasn't expecting the direction they went with, I'm so glad they did go for it, and I just absolutely love it for it. And I think that while not every Godzilla movie going forward should be like -1, because I feel like that could kind of take away from its
Right.
specialty.
Yeah.
I do think that every now and then, giving us that dessert of reminding us why Godzilla is so cool, every now
Yeah.
and then,
Yeah, just
giving us
giving
my
us something like this every once in a while to really show people that really like that aren't Godzilla fans just how like a Godzilla movie isn't just required to be a fun action movie. It can be like a real piece of art as well.
I do, I do think that because I hate how people's like, okay, you should only watch 1954, Shin Godzilla, and -1, and with the exception of 2014.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, you still have like, okay, let's just play ball with that theory for a second. Okay, assuming you are gonna watch that, aren't they just forgetting everything else, like every other serious movie? GMK, Destroya,
Return of
um,
Godzilla.
yeah,
Biollante.
Return of Godzilla, Biolante, exactly. I don't know if you can kind of count against Mecha Godzilla, but I'm gonna count it because it's a more of a
I think you
serious
can.
type movie.
I think you can count that. Yeah. And
But like,
yeah.
are you guys forgetting these movies? Like Godzilla 2000, more of a serious movie again. It's just like there are still serious Godzilla movies out there, and the ones that are serious do a very good job at it. So that's why I'm kind of like, it's kind of a shitty.
Yeah.
But that aside, I can't really judge the movie for what the fans are saying. I
Yeah.
have to judge the movie on the movie, and I
Yeah.
think the movie does an extremely good job at what it gave us and how it did it. And for that, that's why I'm putting it in the S tier, right behind
Yeah.
Godzilla.
Yeah. And I can't wait to see what Yamazaki has is going to be cooking for us for the sequel.
Oh yeah, my friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now we end it off with Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. I'll let you start with this one.
Okay, so with this movie, I told myself, unlike Godzilla versus Kong, I will be avoiding the plot leaks, I will be avoiding the trailers, I will be avoiding the TV spots, any marketing. I will be logging off of YouTube And even though it did kind of work in some parts, thumbnails kind of ruined it. But I refuse to watch any clips, any TV shows, spots, trailers, anything. I went to go see this movie, and I am so glad I did so because all of the epic parts that took place in this movie that were shown in trailers, I was just blown away by. And going into this movie, I already had low expectations as well because I was kind of starting to doubt if this movie was good. But then I went into this movie, and I'm like, holy shit, that is an awesome movie. And I just love it. I do love what they did with Kong, giving him, a making him the main character. I do feel like while Godzilla doesn't necessarily have as much screen time as I was hoping for, when he is on screen, he does a very good job. He does very well. His kill with Scylla is brutal, and it just shows you how fucking visceral he can be when he's killing someone, especially someone he hates. Um, he essentially just turned her into crab cakes
She popped
and
her
then
like
killed
he
her.
popped her like a balloon.
And then he filleted Tiamat, which I was kind of pissed off at because Tiamat was just kind of murdered. But he was deadly in this movie. He did a lot of shit.
Yeah, yeah.
But I do like his new form. Fearsome Godzilla has evolved. The memes in this movie are just
This
all
movie,
like
I love the memes coming from this movie. That might be my favorite part of it is the memes.
it's a very funny movie though. Like this is actually I think some of the best, if not the best, human characters in my opinion. Because they're not really boring. I'm not really bored with any of them like I was with Godzilla versus Kong. This is a significant step up. I do like the more tighter cast. And the budget as well was surprisingly low, which I did not expect. 135 million.
Yeah,
Ah. So I went into this movie with low expectations, avoided everything, and I came out really liking it. But Killer was
yeah.
kind of opposite of me, so I'll let
Yeah,
him.
I think I set my expectations too high. I wanted something that would be better than Godzilla vs. Kong. It would advance what worked well with that movie and learn from what didn't work, and I don't really think it did those that well. Now, don't get me wrong, I still enjoy this movie. I like this movie, just not as much as the other MonsterVerse movies. Um, I think the worst part is that the pacing is horrible. Things just kind of happen and like and sometimes and it doesn't make sense a lot of the time, which is obviously it doesn't have to, but still, um, I I don't think the I think the fights were a little too short, which I kind of
I
understand
think
given the lower budget, but still.
everything with this movie is just plot convenience. Like one movie, like one part of the movie where, spoiler alert, Kong is obviously frostbitten. He's just got his ass kicked by Shimo, which I think that is one of top 10 best MonsterVerse scenes. That entire layer scene, I think,
Yeah,
is
that
extreme.
Scar King layer scene I think is the best scene of the movie. I love that scene. No
But
no notes there.
it, they just kind of have this NPC level dialogue where it's like, well, Kong just got his arm frostbitten by Shimo. And then out of nowhere, he's just like, oh, the project. And it just fucking, like, he gets, like, the mouse tool. He just gets, like, he just calls old Toodles and he's like, all right, we need, can you see what kind of mouse tool we have to give Kong his arm back? Oh, the mystery mouse tool? All right, we're going with that one. The Beast Glove. And then just bring in the Beast Glove with this 80s music, bring it on his
Yeah.
arm. It just happens out of nowhere. I'm like, and then at this point, they have like a frostbite serum as well, as if they knew this was going to happen. They
Yeah,
just looked into
yeah,
the crystal ball,
yeah,
like, okay, Kong is going to get frostbitten by something at this point. We don't know what, but maybe he just goes into the Arctic without like a shirt or gloves on. So we're going to put this in his glove. And I'm just like, well, where did that happen? Like, can you explain why you put that in?
yeah. And also another part with plot convenience is that the Dan Stevens character Trapper he just happened to there's a scene where Scar King and Shimo arrive at the Iwi place and they gotta like delay them from destroying everything while Kong is busy convincing Godzilla to come down. And so like and so Trapper's like, hey, I'm a hop in the heave and rally some reinforcements, and Dr. Andrews is like, we can't. There's no time.
He's
And
like,
then he's like, oh no, my idea is way weirder than that. And so and then like he happens to be able to get to the heave in time find a flock of verticines, get them to start like electrocuting the area around them, and then get them to follow him, and then get back to the to Shimo and Scar King's like army right in time. And yeah, it was a bit convenient. I mean, it was fun, but very lots of plot
It's just
convenience.
they had the entire Mousecatool arsenal on their disposal right
Yeah,
there. However, let's just address the elephant in the room here. The fucking like memes. This is the funniest MonsterVerse movie
I
I
agree. Yeah,
it's just like Suko, the scene where where Kong is using Suko.
yeah, yeah,
Keep in mind, Suko is bigger than like not Scar King, Kong Skull Island Kong.
yeah,
So keeping that in mind, I'm like, wow, he's just really doing the work on Suko.
yeah,
But then that makes me think: is Suko gonna be bigger than Kong when he grows up?
yeah. I don't know. Yeah, like
Because if he's
that.
bigger, because if he's a baby here and he's already bigger than teenager Kong, then wow.
Yeah, and then that like throw at the end was just that like was like personal.
Where he just like he kind of puts a little bit of hate behind that throw. Like
Yeah, yeah,
he doesn't really like throw. He doesn't really like throw him like chucks him away. He straight up like winds that shit up and just eats him at the
and
gate.
just like hucks him into the nearby ape.
He just trash bags him, and it's just so funny.
And then after the other apes like ran off or fell off the cliff, he sees Suko hiding in that little tree, and he just grabs him and then just slams him into the floor.
It's just like Suko is durable. Like I feel like you cannot possibly survive that, bro.
Yeah, how did that whole sequence not break every bone in his body?
He's definitely gonna be the villain later on. That's his like Joker origin story.
Yeah. And
It's like I wasn't always like this. It was only
another
until this big
yeah,
ass ape threw me.
another super memed moment, the yapping ape.
When I saw this, I instantly knew the memers were gonna like this was like their big hallelujah moment where they're like, "Oh yes, that right there is the meme of all memes. We are gonna take that." And the amount of you know how many memes I've seen with just the yapping ape.
Yeah.
It's just and then oh, who can forget dolphin diving Godzilla?
Oh yeah,
And
the dolphin dive. I remember I showed you that image, and I was like, this image is a leak, so I don't know if I want to send it. Like, send it. I want to see it. And then your reaction just.
we just died. We were laughing. And then the memes as well, like the memes lobster sent us where Godzilla like widened his arms is like okay, how big was it? And then he just like widens his arm.
Yeah, yeah,
Nobody. The rats in a, like rats when they see like a KFC deep fry, just dolphin dives right
yeah.
in. Oh
Uh,
my god.
the memes
It's
from this movie.
so fun. And then when the funny part is like eye contact is a sign of respect and it just cuts to them just like
Like
staring
staring
at
at,
him.
and it's like, I don't think this is working for me. Bernie in
It's
this
just
movie was
so
so funny.
this is
The
definitely the fun.
Ghidorah Stand 64.
Oh my! I do love how subtle it is, but they're not like showing it in your face kind of thing.
Yeah,
But it is definitely the funniest MonsterVerse movie.
yeah.
The Hollow Earth sequence, I do love that. I think
I think
the build up to Scar.
Kong's storyline in general was fantastic.
I'm interested to see where they go with the Godzilla story now because I feel like they've kind of concluded with Kong.
Yeah,
And
Adam
now we're
Wingard said
setting
that
up.
he's gonna be focusing more on Godzilla with the next one. So yeah,
But I do like what they went for, and I do think yes, you can make monsters the main character. It just depends how it's shown off. I do kind of wish we got more of Scar King earlier on because he was kind of there in the middle of the movie. But for what we were given, I'm so glad that he wasn't as big of a pushover as
yeah,
shown in the.
yeah. If anything, is Shimo who was more of a letdown than Scar King.
Yeah, because Shimo in the trailers was basically this like world-ending threat, but then in the movie it's just kind of big ice
Yeah,
dog.
and Scar King just kept getting thrown around in the trailers, but the but in the movie he was a menace.
him kicking that ape into the lava, I had
Oh,
no like that really took me back. I'm like, wow, that is so evil.
yeah.
But like I do love how, you know, Kong was in this movie. I just love how
How they
it was
portrayed
his
him.
movie in a way. I do feel like they're gonna go with, I don't know how they do it with Godzilla. I think they might use Doug a little bit now because he's kind of like he's definitely a Gojira specimen. I feel like, but whether he meets Godzilla or not, the I do love how um that Hollow Earth scene. I just wish it was a little bit longer. My
Yeah.
biggest complaints with this movie are probably just that the fights aren't long enough, or they just end a little bit abruptly.
Yeah.
I think pacing is just kind of all over the place, but
And
it's
the
so
music
fast.
isn't that good either.
Yeah, it's kind of just reused from GVK.
Yeah.
Um, but for what we were given, because again, I wasn't spoiled with this movie. I didn't read anything, which is I think what kind of saved it for me. The plot convenience was just it was funny, but at the same time, it was just like, whoa, that just happened out of nowhere. Um, I definitely do think that it's a fun movie. Just don't expect -1 because I know a lot of people went to this movie and started berating it for not being -1.
Yeah.
But even
What
the
what are they thinking? Did they watch the trailer?
like you're literally getting like fearsome Godzilla and the mighty Kong teaming up, and
And they're and
again
they're
another complaint.
they're the young ally Suko.
The giant ruthless Scar King.
Yeah.
Oh my god, the memes for this movie are just so funny. I do like the Rio fight. I think that 7 minutes of just no cuts, no nothing is very good, and in broad daylight as well, which was nice. I don't really think there was any nighttime battles in this movie,
Yeah, I don't think there was.
which wow, that's good
There
on
well,
them. They
at least no like nighttime fights whereas kaiju versus kaiju. Like I know the scene whereas like Godzilla versus like the military drones was in the night.
Yeah, that, but Kaiju versus Kaiju, I don't think we got any of that.
Yeah.
But hey, for what we got, I'm happy. I wasn't spoiled with it, and I'm so glad I didn't, and I
Yeah.
might just keep that going on.
Unfortunately I can't say the same and it's entirely my fault.
I do
I
think
went
if you were
looking
not
for
spoiled,
it.
I do think had you not been spoiled, you would have enjoyed this a little bit more. But I mean, I liked the movie, and I definitely got a kick out of it. Me personally, I it made me just feel like a kid again, and why I love watching these kinds of movies. Um, I definitely just enjoyed seeing this movie for what it was, and I definitely hope that Wingard takes you know the aspects of what not to do with this movie and then carry on going forward.
Yeah. But yeah, as for my ranking, I'm gonna put it in high B tier, behind Return of Godzilla, above Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster.
I'm gonna be putting this in S tier. I kind of want to just put this behind -1, but also tied with GVK, just because I just enjoy this movie a lot, and I think not spoiling it for me was the best thing ever. It was the saving grace
Yeah,
for this movie, and I'm just really glad that um, I just had a lot of fun with this movie.
yeah,
So I'm putting it. That's going to be my ranking personally. Um, I don't know why my rankings are cut away, but like why the letters are gone. But that's where I'm going to rank it.
yeah.
I do think. Do you want to show your ranking?
Uh, yeah. Let me gotta crop it real quick.
But yeah. So that's Killer's ranking. He's you know he's got, of course, the F tier, and I've got I've got this, but
Yeah,
that's going to be our ranking for the Godzilla franchise. So,
yeah.
if you had to pick 5 movies for Godzilla fans to watch or anyone wanting to watch a Godzilla movie, what are 5 picks you would choose?
Um, hmm. I would say, I would say 1954. Gotta know how it started. Um, I think 2014.
2014. Okay.
GMK
Okay.
and um, I think that's three. Uh, -1,
Obviously.
and then GVK or King of the Monsters. Take your pick.
All right. So, um, I just I'm gonna just look at this meme that I sent you earlier. I just laughed at that. It was so abrupt.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so my top five picks, if I had to choose, number one would be obviously 54. Number two would be GMK. Number three, Godzilla versus Destroyer. Number four, GVK, and then number five, -1.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
I
great
think you can.
list.
I do think you can switch GVK and King of the Monsters around. The only reason why I'm not saying the New Empire, and keep in mind, the New Empire. I absolutely love the New Empire. Um, I don't really have as many problems or complaints with it. All of my complaints are just kind of goofier. But the movie doesn't really take itself seriously, which I mean, obviously. But the only reason why I'm not saying the New Empire is because you kind of need to look at the other MonsterVerse movies to really grasp the context of it, in my opinion. I don't know, but I do think if I were to say the New Empire, then I would just say just don't have much expectations for this movie. Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
But overall, that's my picks. Pretty similar to yours. Godzilla versus Destroyer for the emotional, 54 and -1 for the seriousness, along with GMK, and then GVK for just the epicness.
Yeah, for the fun monster fights. Yeah.
But yeah, that's going to be our tier list.
Yep.
Killer. Thank
Um,
for having me on.
yep. Uh, Thanks for doing all this with me, and it's fun.
This has been weeks in the making. Like we
Yeah.
have
Yeah, we've
waited
been
weeks
planning
for this.
this. We've been having to delay it constantly because just yeah.
It's just, but I hope everyone watching can enjoy this. I had a lot of fun ranking, and we will definitely be doing this sometime again. Might have Killer on with me next time.
Yeah.
Um, but this I enjoyed it. I think this is definitely a good first entry for what's to come.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very. Maybe next time we'll do like a Godzilla design tier list or something.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But keep on the lookout for Killer's ultimate
Ultimate
monster.
Kaiju review video. Yep, it'll probably be a few months until that comes out because I still have to watch all of them, but yeah.
I don't super monster first. You
Yeah.
just you need to. Killer put me through the worst thing ever with Super Monster, and that was like during the heat. I hate
Uh,
that so much for that. But yeah, thank you everybody for sticking with us with our Jesus Christ, with our almost 2.5 hour yap session.
yeah.
We really yap with this a lot, but
Yeah.
I had fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for having me on it. It's just
Yeah.
really fun.
Yeah, thanks for doing it. Subscribe to Tiger if you haven't.
Yeah, and subscribe to Killer as well. I will hopefully be bringing some Godzilla stuff later,
Yeah.
which I'm currently writing the script for the MonsterVerse ranking, which I'm excited for. A lot of thought's gonna be put into this, but also stay tuned for Killer's Monster Kaiju Marathon review. That being said, like I said, thank you all for watching, and we will see you guys in the next one.
Yeah. Goodbye.